Hello, it's me, Forde, here from the Brain Drain Show, and I'm just here to inform you that we had a couple of technical difficulties whilst recording the Andy Mac episode on Friday the 13th. But nonetheless, it's a great episode, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for your support. Coming up on this episode of the Brain Drain Show.
Hey, I haven't gotten a text that says you're going to dream about me. That was my first board. It was a department store board. They used to call Rodney Mullen the Mutt because he would go to the skate shop and look in the glass display cases. And then Mike V left before my first pro board came out on Powell, and I was already riding that shape, and I was just like, put it on Mike's shape. Mitchy Brusco recently was like, I think that if you did the math, you've spent more time on a vert ramp than any other skater. I always talk about Jamie Foy, the years leading up to him turning pro and then getting skater of the year and everything. I was like, you were just a camper. Like, you were just winning my uphill tic-tac race, you know? Like, has there ever been a female skater of the year? I had a pro shoe from 97 until like 2016. You'll sell more shoes the first quarter than Osiris will sell all year. People are like, you sell out, blah, blah. What does that have to do with skateboarding? I'm like, I skate, I get thirsty, I drink iced tea. Like, what's the big deal? You don't want to buy Lego ads in Thrasher. I was able to like build my career on marrying the corporate world or the non-endemic world with the world of skateboarding. Me and Cab and McGill and stuff, and we went and saw Godzilla just to have your name on the marquee. I knew that cost $1 million. Tony did the first 900 in 1999, so more than 20 years ago. So it's just the evolution of skateboarding. Like, gnarliest, scariest, raddest looking vertical skateboard trick, or one of anyways, is Sluggo doing a melon backflip to fakie. Yeah, I wouldn't take the time to be mean to him if I didn't love him. Hey, my name's Andy Macdonald. You've been watching the Brain Drain Show. Thanks for listening.
Good evening and welcome to another great episode of the Brain Drain Show with me, Forde Brookfield. Joined to my left is...
Toby.
Tell him your full name, Toby.
For fuck's sake. Toby Batchelor.
And this is the first episode where producer Fraser isn't behind the camera key cuts now. We now have producer Ed. So if we can have a little round of applause for producer Ed in the studio. This is his first shift. Don't clap yourself, Ed.
He's very handsome. He's saved in my phone as Handsome Ed.
Handsome Ed?
Yeah.
I think he's just saved in my phone as Ed.
Oh,
But
nice.
maybe I need to change it to Handsome. But anyway.
Who's on the podcast today, Forde?
We've got a very special guest on the podcast. We're very proud to have him. Big fan. All the way from...
America.
Just for
California.
this. Not for any other reason. It's the one, the only, Andy Macdonald. Round of applause in the studio audience, please.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
I like the way Sean tried to clap then while he's filming. He's like...
Yeah, we've got some behind the scenes by residential goth Sean in the building.
Thanks for coming all the way over from Birmingham.
My pleasure.
We know you've got a busy schedule.
Yeah, I
ahead
mean,
of you.
what we were talking about earlier about getting that flight tomorrow, I don't want to make you more anxious, but that's giving me anxiety, the timescales you've got to get that flight.
You're going to have to text us both that you made the flight.
I don't get to be in the UK as often as I'd like, so when I do get here, I try to cram in as much stuff as I can. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get a session over at Creation tonight and skate with some of the SkateboardGB team guys and some of the local vert scene. They got a pretty good like Wednesday night old man session. So
Yeah.
I'm old. I can skate with those guys.
Sounds good. What's the I don't know the spec of the Creation vert ramp? Is it?
It's small. It's
13 and a half, I think.
Is it?
I don't know the dimensions. It's not as big as the ramps in the ramp that I skate on a daily is 11'3" transitions with 2 feet of vert.
Right. Okay.
And
so when you
like the standard, like all the competition X Games vert ramps and stuff are generally like 11 with 2 or bigger, 11 and a half with 2.
When did vert ramps go from like the?
Because this has been a question, hasn't it, that we've had.
I'm quite interested because we speak about this like like the sort of late 80s size vert ramps were like
late 80s size vert ramps were oftentimes like 8-foot transitions, with a foot of vert or whatever.
But
and
when
then
did
the 90s they came? It was like 10-foot transitions, 1.5 of vert. They just kept getting bigger.
Yeah.
Up until right around in the late 90s, like around 2000, they like the DC ramp and when Tony spent $1 million of his own money to build the tour ramp for the Boom Boom Huck Jam, we kind of settled in around 11-foot transitions. But it needs to, when your transitions are that big, 11 foot center radius, and I think Tony's are 11 foot 3 inches center radius transitions. 2 feet of vert is kind of the standard because you have a 15-inch wheelbase, so you need both wheels to be on vert when you take off. And if it gets bigger than that, it starts to get slow. It starts to get like you can't go fast enough unless like Elliot's, I think, is 11.5 foot transition, that his vert ramp. And you have to skate it like Elliot skates it, like end to end. Start with the big roll in. Like if you drop in the middle of the ramp and do a rock and roll, you're like hard to make it to the top. And then Tony's ramp works really well because it's all aluminum frame. So every ounce of energy you put into it comes back in pump. Whereas if you build a ramp that big and it's plywood or wood frame,
it's absorbing.
Yeah, the wood naturally absorbs some of the energy that you put into it, so you don't get quite as much out. A steel frame ramp is faster.
What do you think it was that made vert ramps start to get ridiculously big? Was it like the DC mega ramp era where vert ramps started to get like overly large? And is there a standard?
No, people had been trying it. Like Matt Hoffman built the very first like oversized quarter pipe in 1991.
Big up Matt Hoffman.
He got towed, and he like just innovating, and he got towed into it and set a world record for biggest error on a quarter pipe. And then he took that idea and tried to make a half pipe with 20-foot transitions, and it didn't work. He ended up trying to strap like a lawnmower engine to his bike and try to totally Oklahoma style. And then people have been experimenting since, but it's actually a lot easier on your body skating big transitions, skating big curves. Just the physics of it works such that like it's a bigger curve, so when you fall, it's easier to go higher on, and then when you fall, there's more to catch you. You fall and you land and it catches you and you slide down it. Whereas when you're riding, like I just spent 2.5, 3 years skating small transitions, getting ready for the Olympics and stuff, and it was very hard for me and very hard on my body to go from these 11-foot transitions to 8-foot transitions, where when you fall, you just go straight to the bottom. There's nothing to catch you.
Yeah.
So you compress your back, hurt your knees more. It's just like way harder on your body.
That's interesting. I thought maybe it was like the rise of the X Games and those kind of more prominent vert comps that maybe pushed the ramps to go bigger. But then I guess at the same time, Danny Way was hatching those ideas, wasn't he? Building bigger ramps. And well, I mean, when did the first mega ramp come in?
I did the first jump in 1999.
Okay, so
for Swatch in Michigan, and did the first like roll in and Evel Knievel's type jump. I set a world record for 52 feet jumping over 4 parked cars. And then Danny took that idea and combined it with Matt Hoffman's big quarter pipe idea and built the first mega ramp and jumped a jump and then hit a quarter pipe. And that, in and of itself is like a new discipline in skating and allowed people to do stuff. Stuff has been done on a 20-foot quarter pipe that actually the quarter pipe at Bob's is almost 30 feet. It's 28 foot.
That's just insane.
So it's 26 foot transitions with 2 feet of vert, I'm pretty sure.
Fucking hell.
That probably feels
and you can
small.
do like the only 1260 that's ever been done is done on a big ramp like that.
Was that Michi
Brusco?
Yeah,
he's been
insane.
done once and whatever. But really, like, it's not when you're going that fast. When you jump a 70-foot gap, it's only 60 now at the X Games. But when we first built it, when Danny first built it, it was a 50-foot jump and a 70-foot jump. And when you jump the 70-foot jump, it's like it's not even really skateboarding anymore. You're going so fast, and it's like life or death stuff, like a Jakey Brown. Like, should have died.
What boards do you use for that? Like 215 trucks?
Yeah, that's
like, you've got to have a big board.
You ride a board with a longer wheelbase. You ride
how long are we talking?
Indy 215s, like 16 and a quarter wheelbase.
Yeah.
With Indy 215s that do not turn. Like if you step on it, it's like a rock. You put it super hard bushing,
you tighten
crank
it
them down. And then guys do stuff like crank down their wheels, depending, like when I used to ride those jumps, they're all outside. So there would be a barometer at the top of the ramp. Like you take an elevator up and you come out and you check the wind. There's flags and stuff. And
I didn't think of it like that.
Because if you come down the ramp and you pump, it's the difference between and there's a 5 mile an hour wind headwind, and you don't pump and you come up short, you break your foot. Like you're not.
Yeah, I never thought about any of that.
Or if the wind's going the other way and you pump and you overshoot, same deal. Like you overshoot by 15 feet, like no problem. You're like, whoa, there goes my landing. Wham!
Yeah.
You just like
as if it wasn't gnarly enough, the size and all that, then having to do weather checks before each drop in. I mean, that's
being on the phone to the Weather Channel as
Yeah,
you're about to roll in.
And here's me stressing out when I skate towards the curb and I can see a little rock in the way.
bubble.
I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah, no, it's really like there's a dozen guys in the world that do
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
it's pretty niche. And then they built the last few ramps. I got to skate it a couple times indoors. They built it in the Staples Center, but the roll-in was literally at the roof of the Staples Center. We used the elevators in the Staples Center, so they didn't have to build an elevator into the roof because the Staples Center wasn't big enough to hold that ramp. So we'd take the elevator in, and then we'd climb upstairs into the scaffolding, and then get on the roll-in, and we'd roll down the roll-in. But there wasn't enough room lengthwise in the stadium to build that ramp, so they took out flat bottom. And so that's the year that Danny took the slam and Jake took the slam.
Because Jake went up and shinned himself, right, on the coat. Or was that Danny? Like, did Jake?
No,
kick,
Danny caught his
kicked
shins
out,
on it. Jake kicked out off the
kicked out him to flat,
right.
and he still.
But the reason why
stood
it
up
was
after
so we
that.
were all excited because we wouldn't. Oh, it's gonna be indoors. It'll be a controlled environment where we don't have to check the wind anymore. So it's gonna be safer. But then there was 8 foot less flat bottom, so you jump a 70-foot jump and land, and like you're already going 45 miles an hour, and you land however your feet land. That's how you're hitting the quarter pipe. So if you land a little sketch or whatever, my feet are off. That's how you ride. And there's no like, oh, let me adjust my feet as I come across the flat bottom. You're just holding on for dear life after you land, and you're riding up the quarter pipe. That's how you're going.
How big was that Jake Brown fall? Because he free falls from. He goes
50 feet. That's why like he, in medical terms, he should have died.
and his shoes come off and everything with the impact.
So going back to what you were saying then about when you're landing on that setup, your feet had to be in the right position for the vert wall.
Yeah, but particularly when it was in Staples Center because there was less. So,
you had less
so
space.
guys were going way higher. Like the highest air I've ever done was 24 foot 1 inch judo air in that ramp in the Staples Center on that ramp. And I did it, and I was like, it works because because everything happened to go right. But that's it. Like I'll never go do that again. I'm like done. Checked it off my list. I don't need to do this anymore.
Just hearing those numbers, it's all well and good when you see. We would see that in 4-on-1 or in the mags and stuff like that. But actually hearing the numbers, it's just it's insane.
Just visualize standing on top of that rolling and seeing this.
It is mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's the first time I ever did it. I skated the first time I ever skated a big jump. Was out at the Point X one, and I was with Danny, and I was like, so what's the quarter pipe like? And just ride it like normal ramp, whatever. And I jumped the jump. I had done the jump. I invented the jump, right? So jump the jump first try, and then I'm coming into the quarter pipe going so fast at this giant wall, and you're literally like looking up, like it's like how big wave surfers must like. You feel so little looking up at this giant wall, but you're going so fast. And I go into a backside air. I'm like, just relax, just doing a backside air. And I remember my stomach dropping because I looked at the coping and it was going away so fast. I was just like, and I just immediately was like, I'm bailing. But it was just like it was like your slow motion because you were just like waiting, like, okay, I was bailing on my way up. Like as soon as I left, I was like, oh God. And I see the coping going away and I was still going up. Still just like, whoa, okay, now I'm waiting for it to come down. Like it just felt so long. And
I was going to ask you,
you're going way faster, but it's like slow motion.
Yeah.
Because the transition's so big, it works for some, for the physics of it work, but you have to be going Mach a million.
That's what Jesse Thomas said to me. He's like, once you get into skating vert, it's nice because it feels slow. Everything feels. You've got so much time to plan.
Yeah. So everything's just multiplied, and that's like what happened with Jakey. Like if on when you're going that fast and riding transitions that big, if you pull out just a little bit too much, it's amplified because if you pull out too much and you're doing a 6-foot air, you go out this much. If you're going a 24-foot air, you go out that much. It's just like the trajectory continues, and the same for hanging up. Like I didn't quite pull out enough, but I'm going 20 feet high. Yeah. So now I'm going to not just hang up my truck. I'm going to land on my shin. Like a bunch of people have landed and caught their legs. Elliot landed like halfway.
Yeah.
Brian Patch landed 2 feet on the coping, broke both feet in half, long ways.
So
just like, it's not.
So Jake and Danny both bailed on that same ramp
Yeah.
during the same event. Did anyone look around and go, maybe the specs of this ramp isn't correct?
Yeah,
if,
that
if
was
two of the greatest vert skaters.
I think that was because the flat bottom was too close.
yeah,
There
too
wasn't
short.
enough. There wasn't enough flat. And then they got smart and made the big jump, which was like the competition jump. You warmed up on the 50-footer, but the competition, if you wanted to get a good score, you had to
Warmed
do
up
the
on a
50.
50-foot.
Fucking hell.
And then now it's the 60-footer. Now it's not quite as far. So
Can you remember who took the next run after that incident with Jake? Because that must have been like, holy shit.
Yeah, we'd have to go back and look at the tapes.
Yeah.
It might have been Bob. Because I was standing on the flat bottom.
Yeah.
And I remember looking away because I didn't want to see my friend die.
Mm.
I remember that was in the days where there was a big jump and a little jump, and Jakey, the big jump was on the left hand side.
It's on the screen there. Just
But it's insane that he
So
he
the
fell.
part of the reason why he fell is because he's a goofy footer and he wanted to go backside. So he had to do his 720. He makes the 720 first time ever in competition. He makes it, and then he tries to carve to get into a backside.
and that's what
Yeah.
throws his weight
Right,
out, I guess.
right. So now he's got to get on his heels and try and carve into the backside.
Look at that.
And then it's over. Like by the time he could even get. So I see him pop out and he's gonna slam, and I look away. I kind of close my eyes and look away, and I look back and I see him hit again because he bounced. And then X Games should have just been like helicopter, straight life flight, go,
Yeah.
and they should have put him in a neck brace, he could have
stood up,
He
right?
could have stood up and been paralyzed though. He
Yeah.
could have broke his. He could have There's no way any medical professional should have let him stand up and walk away. He stood up. He walked over. He had a broken wrist. He had internal bleeding, broken ribs. And he sat on the gurney and smoked a cigarette. Wow.
That's Jake Brown, isn't
That's
it?
Jakey.
No, that's.
And sat on the gurney and smoked a cigarette because they're like, we're going to take you to the hospital. He's like, no, I want to finish watching the contest. And I think the next run was Bob Burnquist, and who had been sitting up at the top part of the gnarly part about skating the big air stuff is it's like, hurry up, get in position.
Yeah,
You get out on this
yeah.
little ledge and this little
Yeah.
bird
Especially when
perch
it's
or whatever. And then they're
televised.
like, hold, TV hold, 5-minute commercial break or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Bob, because Jake got hurt, he had been sitting up there cold for 15 minutes.
Here's the
Here's
Danny
the Danny
one
Way
too.
one. He comes around and realizes I'm way over coping, and there's just not
It's
time to
insane.
even do anything.
I mean, Bob probably would have, if Jake got airlifted out with a helicopter, Bob probably would have wanted to have gone off the helicopter into the drop, because that guy's fucking psycho, going off a helicopter. But yeah, it's just the fact that they both had life-threatening, career-ending bails there, and it still went on.
Danny took another run after that.
Yeah,
That was a super gnarly slam, but he got up and
Yeah,
finished
Danny
his
Way's
contest
a
the next-
special type of human,
Yeah.
isn't he?
I don't know what's
Is
going.
he
He did a Varial 5 after that.
I don't know what's going through his body, but I think he gets up as well, and has another run, and it's like the documentary about jumping the Great Wall as well, and he's done both of his feet at the same time. And he's like, no, I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
If who else is going to do that? It's fucking
it's
insane.
madness.
Yeah, pro skateboarders don't get paid enough.
No,
No.
actually not.
Shall we start the podcast?
Yeah, let's start. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. How did we even get onto it? Oh, we were talking about vert ramp specs.
Yeah.
We've got another gift for you. Forde kind of blew it because he bought out part 1 of the gift, which is going to then make part 2 of the gift seem not as funny.
He's going
not
to close your eyes.
Close your eyes.
Okay, close.
So
Andy's going to like it just as much.
This would have been way better.
I'm really curious because I could have guessed what the first part of the gift was.
Here you go, then.
Can I open them?
Yeah, go.
Oh, yes.
More line bars.
Yes. All right. I was just going to say, do the viewers know what I get? I have a lion bar thing. Okay. And
Can we get the other
You can't
bars?
get lion bars in the States, or you can find them if you find an import place or whatever, and they're $4 each.
Are they?
And
But look at that. One pack of, what's that, 20?
So you've
this
got
is 36,
and then you've got the 4-packs in there as well. So 36 and
10 4-packs.
yeah.
Look at that.
That'll keep you going. Hopefully you've got enough space in your luggage to take it home.
I'm
They'll
just
probably
going
pull you
to
over
carry
and
them
go,
on. I'm just going to carry them on like this.
Why do you have so many line bars, Mr Macdonald? Anyway, that was
I'll just offer them one.
Yeah.
Like the TSA folks or the Border Patrol guys would be like, have you tried one of these? Here, dude. Share the wealth.
Anyway,
Sure.
it would have been way funnier if he hadn't blown it and given you the first box. But
No,
anyway.
but that's why I gave him the smaller one first. 'cause
Right, okay.
I wish we were rolling, because you would have seen Andy's eyes light up beautifully. Like his eyelashes were flickering. It was like a Disney flick.
Yeah, it's
When
kinda
you got
like
that small box, now he's got another box.
When you messaged to say you were coming on, I straight away was like, we need to get line bars. That's the first thought. Get the line bars in. So we did.
White lion bar.
Right, let's start at the beginning. So
Thank you very much for the gift.
It's all right.
you're welcome. Absolutely no
If you
problem.
text Toby your address, we'll send you packages of lion bars.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll send you Hostess Twinkies.
Just Twinkies is all I want. Let's start from the basics, yeah, because dual citizenship and your
Yeah, let's-
father is from Luton.
Yeah, I figured you guys were going to want to know about heritage.
Yeah.
It's not much there. There's not. My granddad's from Dumfries.
Yeah.
And my grandmom's from London. My dad was born in Luton
Yeah.
and moved to the States when he was young, after the war, after the war, because my granddad was in the Royal Air Force.
Right. Okay.
He was a motorcycle messenger during the war for the Royal Air Force, and then came to the States. They immigrated to the Philadelphia area, and I never once thought about being a dual citizen until somebody brought it up after the first cycle of the Olympics.
Yeah.
I watched a bunch of people that were dual citizens in the Tokyo cycle of the games.
So who else
and
is
compete.
dual citizenship? There's
So
quite a few, isn't there?
yeah, there's quite a few.
Isn't Lola's
but
dad or granddad in the... No, maybe it's not Lola. It's I'm thinking of Bombette Martin because she's got family in
Yeah,
Birmingham
her
as
dad's
well.
from Birmingham.
Lizzie is as well. Lizzie Armand.
Lizzie Armanto,
Yeah.
she's dual citizenship.
yeah,
Finland.
one of the first people I talked to was Lizzie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she rode for Finland.
Yeah.
And Finland built her a vert ramp in her backyard because she was like, I need to train for the
Nice.
Olympics, and she's the only one on the Finnish
Did Skateboard
national
GB
team
give-
or whatever.
Did Skateboard GB build
Skateboard
you a
GB
vert ramp
did
in
not
your
build
bed?
me a vert ramp.
Fucking hell, GB.
We take what we can get, you know. No, it really hadn't occurred to me, and I talked to
Yeah.
Lizzie, and I talked to Amelia Brodka,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
rode for Poland, and both of them were like, "Yeah, absolutely, you should totally do that," because there's the way that the Olympics work in every country, almost every country except for America, is that if your sport is an Olympic sport, there's government money, there's government funding to help. To build, to help build that sport and to support the Olympic athletes. And in the States, unfortunately, it's only like sponsorship dollars, whatever sponsorship dollars that sport can attract. And in every other country, including Britain, Britain's supported by the National Lottery and UK Sport. So they were like, yeah, if you're a dual citizen, then I started thinking about it, and I was like, oh, my dad's like, I have to look it up, and I called my dad, and he was like, yeah, I was born in Britain. He didn't even have a British passport. He was just like, why would I want a British passport? So when I looked into it, if you have a mom or dad that was born in Britain before 1984, you're British. It's just
Okay.
like, that's how it works. So I had to go through, jump through all the hoops about, get my dad's birth certificate, my mom's birth certificate, their marriage license, certificates and all that. And it was mostly done just like through the internet or else through the post, I had to get my dad's passed, like he has to get original copies. So I had to like go to the town where my dad was born, Luton, and through the Royal Mail get his original birth certificate that was like had my dad's my granddad's name. It was like written in calligraphy, and it had the wet nurse that delivered him and stuff. It was pretty neat.
I was just about to ask, would it not have been valid then because your grandparents were from Britain? It had to be your father was from Britain before 1984.
My father was born in 1940,
Right.
39 or 40 or something in Britain, in Luton. So had to be your father. It had to be a parent.
Yeah.
And first generation.
Okay. Makes sense.
So me and my brother, but my children, no. My brother and I are British citizens. My children are not because they were born. Even though I'm a British citizen, my children don't qualify because they weren't born.
So do you have two passports now?
Yeah, I'm like James Bond. It's just
Nice.
like where I'm going. So when I'm traveling here, I travel on my British passport, and when I travel home tomorrow, I'll be on my American passport.
Nice. James Bond with a yellow helmet.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, it's a great opportunity, isn't it, to be able, for that to be ways of competing in the Olympics. And
I wouldn't have been able to do it if it weren't for Skateboard Great Britain's support. Like I went to my wife and said, is this a crazy idea? Like if I go out for the British national team and I make the team, they'll support my bid for the Olympics. They'll pay for me to go to all the, and at the time we didn't even know what that meant, like where they were going to be or how many there were going to be or whatever. But it was just like, I'll be 50 years old. I was 49 at the time. Hey, and
what did she
I
say?
said to my wife, like, hey, is this a crazy idea? And she was like, you're crazy not to. Of course, do that. Like, there'd be an opportunity to, like, whether you make the games or not, it'd just be fun to go and continue
to
doing what
experience
you,
it too.
like this whole other world. This like Olympic skateboarding was completely new to me. And I learned so much having gone through that whole experience. But it started with, the British Nationals. I got Daz on the phone and was like, hey, here's the deal, blah, blah. And Daz knew who I was through skateboarding. Like, oh, you're a pro skateboarder. And he's like, that's all well and good, but that means nothing in the Olympic world. Like, I can't just like put you on the British national team because you're a good vert skater. Yeah. You have to go through all the same,
through the hoops,
jump through all the hoops of anybody else that wants to make the British team, which means you have to come here to British nationals and you have to do well. And before you can even apply to enter that contest, you have to send me video, just like anybody else that wants to enter this contest. Send me video showing your prowess on transition that's lower than 9 feet in bowls and ramps that are lower than 9 feet. And I ride 14-foot ramps almost exclusively for the past 20 years. So I had to go to like the Vans Park, and the Encinitas Park has this little vert ramp, and do a 540 and do a kickflip on these little tiny bowls. And I was just like,
there's a criteria, right, of tricks that you can do.
Yeah, you had to show like a couple flip grab variations and some 540 variations.
That whole thing, the criteria, like Daz doesn't get the recognition he deserves for that, because that whole criteria was his work in
he built it.
Of putting SkateboardGB together.
I rember him doing it when we were here.
Yeah, he kept asking me, he's like, what do you think of this? You know, the whole spreadsheet format, and you know, it is a really alien side of skateboarding to a lot of people, but I think it's more ingrained in that. But one thing I wanted to ask you is, what do you think Andy Macdonald, aged 20, for example, would have thought about Olympics back then compared to what you think about it now? And that's not me fishing for you to have any kind of negativity with it, just your opinion, because there's a lot of people for and against the Olympics. I personally, I don't see the problem with it at all. I just think it's great because it's more people skating.
But maybe 20 years ago, you might have.
But 20 years ago, I might have been,
because I think I would have as well.
But I don't think I would have seen. I don't think I would have had issue. I would have just laughed. I would have been like, "That's not what skateboarding is." Like skateboarding. The reason why I started skateboarding when I was 12 was because skateboarding was the antithesis of Olympic sport. You know, like I didn't want to have coaches telling me how to do what I wanted to do. Like that's what attracted me to skateboarding.
Same, absolutely.
And then, you know, by the time I was 20, 21, I was a pro skateboarder. And if you had asked me, I probably would have been like, yeah, great. You know, like it will look very different than any other Olympic sport. But I've always been of the mentality that skateboarding in all its forms will only make skateboarding bigger and better and allow more people to make a living skateboarding and like it can be this big circle, this big open community of like, I'm a slalom skateboarder. Oh, I just skate ledges. I skate mega ramps. Whatever. That's all skateboard. It's all skateboarding, and we can all get along. And the bigger that circle is, the better it is for the whole skateboard community.
There's not many people saying I'm a mega ramp skater.
Yeah, there's 12 people that go. Yeah, I ride
the whole 12.
I ride 30-foot quarter pipes. Yeah, me and the other 12 people.
That's a very elite crew, isn't it? You guys for that.
I think what Andy said there about a lot of it is what we've said about a lot of it.
Yeah, so it's kind of what we've spoke about before. There's always going to be people, because skateboarding is very what's the word?
It's very opinionated. It's skateboarding.
No, but everyone takes it very personally. Their skateboarding is their thing.
Yeah.
But what I've sort of grown to sort of understand with it now is like, if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it.
Right.
You don't
And
have
it's
to.
not- it's not going to stop
and
it
understand,
happening.
right? And understand that it's not going to ruin it for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Skateboarding is to
It's-
you what it'll always
yeah.
be to you, and you
Yeah.
can have that, and no one can take that away from you.
Yeah.
And because skateboarding is in the X Games or on the Olympics, I mean, I went through it. Like when skateboarding was on TV for the first time and it was the X Games, everyone's like, sell out this, oh, but Tony Hawk, da 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 da. And I was like, this is allowing us to make a living. Like there's so many more people that can make a living and have legitimate sponsors that will actually pay them. To be able to, like, my job is to skateboard than ever before, right?
And that's the thing that I think a lot of skateboarders have an issue with, that like having a corporate sponsor, they're like, oh, it's not skateboarding, but that will allow that skateboarder to then pursue professional skateboarding and not have to go and work in McDonald's. Or
I think more and more now especially at the professional level, you're seeing and we'll continue to see skateboarders that can do all of that, though. Like a professional skateboarder means you're a pro and you can skate a mini ramp and you can skate a curb and you can skate a vert ramp and a backyard pool and and have, you know, be pretty impressive and all around. Like, I mean, be able to do it all, you know.
I got blown away when I saw Yuto do that line on some vert ramp somewhere. Just drops in padless, backside airs, like really nice tweaked.
Guys that are known for nollie heel flipping onto handrails.
And it's like, holy shit, he can do it
because
all.
they're really good skateboarders. Eric Koston has footage doing tail grab 540s on a vert ramp in an old H Street video, and people are like, "Oh, Eric Koston, like, he's street skater or whatever."
Not new H Street video. I can't remember.
Yeah, one of those old H Street videos or whatever. But
I mean, next gen.
He, I mean, that's what I mean. Some of my X Games medals are street medals. You know, like the first pro vert contest, the first pro skateboard contest I ever won was a street contest.
That's amazing.
I used to compete in street, and Eric Koston got second.
Yes.
so I was like,
He's got that on a plaque in his kitchen.
I beat Eric.
I once beat Koston. Amazing. So what? Just on that, so what was the street course? Because I know back then.
Oh
it was
yeah.
kind of
I mean, no, this was
and...
like one of those, like it was in Sacramento, like the Grind skate park in Sacramento, like out in their parking lot.
Yeah.
And I only won because I was doing like 360 ollies and frontside shove-its over the big, like there was kind of a jump ramp box setup or whatever. And Koston was working on like nollie heel flip nose slides, and he bailed his in the finals or whatever. Like, nobody was doing nollie heel nose slides. Like it was a bank ramp to a box or something, and he would do nollie heel flip to nose stall on the. Nobody was flipping into anything. And he was just like way ahead and didn't have it consistent yet. So I took advantage and got the win and won my $500. And I was like, yes, now I can afford to get to the next contest.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back to all the like X Games stuff now, because I think it's a really interesting time within skating and how people competing in the X Games, you know, it was a way of earning money to keep going.
I mean, like last thing I'll say about it is just like I've always felt like there's this kind of the two sides to skateboarding. Like there's this what I call the thrasher mentality, which is like skateboarding started on the streets and in the backyards, and that's where it needs to stay, or else it's not skateboarding. And I've never subscribed to that. I've just been like, you know what? Skateboarding is that to a lot of people, and it will always be. But then there's this other side of it that's competition skateboarding, and it's X Games, and it's now the Olympics. Yeah. And that doesn't take away from, like, on the day that there's people skating at the Olympics and billions of people, literally billions of people across the globe are watching it, that have no idea about skateboarding. They don't know the difference between a kickflip and a heel flip, but they are invested in their favorite guys or whatever. There's still kids hopping fences and skating schoolyards and skating backyard pools that could care less about who's in the Olympics, and they can both coexist.
It's not like the Olympics came, so then the Olympic governing body was like, you can't do any form of skating.
One's not ruining the other.
And if the Olympic side of skating and the comp side of skating died off, skateboarding is always going to be there, like you said, to what it is to that person if they just want to bomb a hill or skate a ramp in their garden.
And I've built my career on being able to marry the two, like the corporate world and the core world of skateboarding. And I feel like have been able to, like, the reason I'm here in UK this trip is I'm doing a promotion with Samsung. Samsung in UK bought a few months ago, bought 1,000 skateboard lessons from coaches all over the UK, and are giving them away free. And they went like in the first day, everyone picked up a free skateboard lesson. And I'm like, that's the coolest thing. Because here's Samsung. You're right. They have nothing to do with skateboarding, but they like skateboarding in that it's going to give them some street cred, some cool, you know, like we're involved in skateboarding, so we're cool. And skateboarders get, like the skateboard coaches get a job. A bunch of people that have never tried skateboarding before get to try it for the first time and get a lesson.
And even if 20% of the people that
if
try out
nobody
of
ever
that
does-
1,000 get into it,
And how many of them are going to come and sign up for more lessons and, you know,
Or go to
start
the
skateboard,
local-
or go to the local
find
skate
out
shop
where
and
the
buy a
local
skate
shop
shop,
is, yeah.
buy a skateboard for the first time. Like we have to be open to that. And if Samsung wants to help us with that, great, because we have to continue to grow and support our
but that's the thing
sport that we love so much. And now I'm here for a promo where Samsung went and bought 300 of my guest board on Forde, and we're giving them away for free for Christmas. So come down to the shop and we'll give you a free skateboard. Like what's wrong with that? You know, like, yeah, Samsung bought them, but that money is going to skateboarding, a core skateboard company. And we're giving free skateboards away to people that may not have one or just need a new board.
Or can't afford to get a
What's
new
wrong
board.
with that?
Yeah.
But also, that's the thing with skateboarding. Ever since I've grown up into it, no matter who it is, if it's like core or corporate, if someone's offering you something in skateboarding, you take it, because there was a big time in skating where no one was giving you anything, especially when people were setting up vert ramps in the backyard and doing competitions. And, you know, the videos where you see people sitting on the roofs of some kid's mum's backyard. Like, skateboarding had nothing for a long time. So the fact that it's got something, I think people just need to shut the fuck up.
Wasn't there that?
And just take it whilst
you're
it's
right.
there.
Just that-
Because in 2
Or
years,
not,
it could be
or not.
Yeah,
If you don't want to take it,
That's
don't.
fine.
You know,
Yeah.
that's fine. But it's not going to ruin skateboarding somehow.
No, it's
like
not.
That, like people, it's not skateboarding anymore. But okay, so don't participate in that. Just go skate the backyard ramp if you can afford to build one on your own, and that's skateboarding for you. You know.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot of whinging, you know, within skating, but then you would get it anywhere. But
I mean, the caveat is like people sell out. I'm like, yes, you're selling out. If I rode for a beer sponsor, that would be selling out, because I don't drink beer. Never have. I drank one. Rhino paid me $100 to drink a beer. That's the only beer I ever drank.
Yeah.
And so that would absolutely
did he
be,
give you
be
the $100?
selling out. Yeah, I got my $100. Yep.
Big up Rhino. So,
Most expensive beer he ever got.
so one question for me, which is a little bit of a nerdery, is you were born or grew up in Massachusetts, right?
Boston, Mass.
Are you a fan of Jonathan Richman,
Jonathan Richman.
of the Modern Lovers? Because they were Boston,
Oh my
Massachusetts.
goodness. We're going into like Boston bands like Amy Mann, Till Tuesday,
Like, yeah,
Mighty Mighty Boston,
because I'm a massive fan of
Aerosmith,
Boston.
Bad Boys from Boston.
Like, you got to know Jonathan Richman in the New England song where it's like, I come from Boston, I got to tell you about how I love New England. Like, it's so sick. Like, if you're from Boston or Massachusetts, you got to.
That became the joke when I got on the British team.
You've
People
gotta
were like, I
love-
didn't know you were British. I'm from New England, dude.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, the New England is a lot better than the old England.
That's a lot
Like
better
going to like
than Old England.
going to like Manchester and Birmingham in New England or anywhere around there is fucking great.
just before we'll go.
So you're not a fan of Jonathan Richman or the Modern Lovers?
No.
You got to know Roadrunner, right?
How much time did you spend in Boston?
I've been, what was it? I went 4 times, about a month each at a time. I stayed with the Fancy Lad guys because they're Jamaica Plain, Boston, Massachusetts.
JP.
Yeah, JP lifestyle. It's like its own little weird cult.
They
now,
got a
JP.
awesome ice cream shop called JP Licks.
Yeah, a guy called, I forgot his name, but he lives in the house. He lives in the house. Well, he lived in the house with Tomasello, and he works at JP Licks. It's just on Centre Street behind where they live.
Yep.
I love that street.
I mean, you were there after I left. Like, people are like, oh, so Boston this, Boston that. And I'm just like, I was in Boston as a skateboarder from 1985 to 1992. Like, I'm old.
And you was not a fan of Jonathan Richman.
And then in 1992, I graduated high school and I went to California and I never went back. I
Never
just
went
was
back.
Like, yeah.
The last-
Had I waited, they didn't build a skate park. It took them 23 years to
They
build a
still
skate
don't
park
have
in
an indoor
Boston.
park.
They don't have an
Right.
indoor park, but they have the Lynch family skate park is under the
bridge.
The bridge, yeah. And we were waiting for that park for 23 years. Like,
Yeah.
I would have never been pro if I was waiting for a skate park in Boston. You know?
The last time I was in Boston, there was the Trump assassination. It was July the 4th, Juneteenth, and also the Celtics won for the first time in 12 years. So there was a lot of American pride going on. And one American came up to me and he was like, "Oh, you're British. You never took America, did you?" And I was like, "You only got it back because we gave it you back." Like one American guy was pressing me on
The
July
red coat.
4th.
Where's your red coat?
And then he was like, "Have you been to the Boston?" Because there's a Boston Tea Party boat thing near the docks. And I was like, "No, I've not been." And you were like, "America," and I was like, "Yeah, I love America too. That's why I'm here so fucking much all the time."
Can I just, Ed? Can you do me a favour? There's some lip balm in the pocket of my gilet. I've got really dry lips. I just need to get that.
Makeup, cut.
So you're telling me you've never skanked out to Road Runner, Road Runner? That's the Boston song.
That's what I'm telling you.
Thanks, dude.
That's the Boston. When he's like, "I'm in love with Massachusetts." I'm in love with Massachusetts. I love that place.
Pixies, dude.
I just think it's great. Like
I grew up like Sonic Youth and the Pixies, like Mighty Mighty Bosstones, like
Boston's
hard,
are pretty sick.
yeah, like hardcore and skatcore,
like the
that
first band to ever do that.
Slapshot, and like that's
there is a
Gangrene.
good. I wouldn't say good. Well, it is good. There is like it's the part that I was put on Instagram with Nora. There is a park in JP now, right? Kind of right through
the outdoor concrete one.
Yeah, it's like an outdoor concrete one right near the Jamaica Plain, the main tube underground train station, which is there. It's kind
They call
of
it the T in Boston.
the T.
Yep.
And the commuter rail also runs through there too. But there's a skate park there now. But they're all against it because it was a DIY space and they got given permission to build. And then I guess the city was like, "We're going to build a park. What do you want?" And they gave them the designs and they didn't do that. And they just built a park. So now it's got written on there like, "Fancy lad hates this skate park," and everything I want in the world is in JP. Within that
Thing I want.
like Whole Foods is
As long
there.
as I got Whole Foods and bagels and a skate park.
There's a
that's all it
7-Eleven.
needs.
Like I go to Whole Foods, you buy like a slice of pizza, but you sneak 2 in the box and you just scan through 1. I've got it made there when I go to JP. Record shops everywhere. It's fucking great.
Giving skateboarders bad names, dude.
Look, when I'm in the States, I take stuff because it's my right as a British citizen. This should have been mine.
That's right.
This should have been mine.
Let's get back on track. Right.
To say nothing about the Native Americans that were there first.
That is true.
That we all took stuff from.
Big up Boston, Massachusetts and Jamaica Plain.
Okay. Are you done?
Big up Fancy Lad.
Yeah. Big up.
Big up Sedgwick or whatever his name was. He's who works at JP Licks. I get it for free because he works there. Boy! Because I helped him take a cupboard that we'd found at the side of the road. And
He's not done. He's not done.
Like, no, but he was like super high and he was like, "Dude, can you help me carry this bookshelf to my 4th floor?" And I took it up and you were like, "You got ice cream for life at JP Licks." And I was just like, yes.
He just wants to give props to Boston, dude.
Yeah,
how about some skateboard props to Boston? Like first pro skateboarder from Boston.
Andy
It
Macdonald.
wasn't me.
Who was it?
Wait.
Jamal Williams.
I was going to say
Were you gonna
him.
say
You
Jamal? Were you going to say Jamal?
didn't even give me the chance to answer. That's not fair.
Well, all right. First pro vert skater from New England.
Not you.
Wasn't me.
Can we have an initial?
Hang on. What?
This is the pro skater game with a pro skater.
You know what? You come up in the pro skater game quite often
FS.
with us.
FS.
That's the initials.
Frankie Spears. I don't even know who that
Wait,
is.
just- can you let me think?
FS. We might have to cut this out, but this is the pro skater game right now.
FS, give me a minute.
Freddie Screwfix.
You just got his first name.
Freddie Smith.
Fred Smith. Fred Smith III.
I knew that.
Alva.
Yeah, big up.
Right, I quit.
You
I'm
didn't
out.
Do you know him?
Yeah.
Do you know him?
Yeah,
Fred
yeah.
Smith.
Yeah.
He had the screaming head graphic, and then Donnie Barley used his graphic for a graphic.
Freddie.
He was
a good guess by me. I'm not even
He
gonna
was
lie,
with
boys.
a crew of guys called the Loud Ones, and Fred Smith and Jake Phelps, who later became the editor for Thrasher magazine, famously, were skating the Cambridge Bowl the first time I showed up on my little Veriflex department store board and started trying to ride this 13-foot deep bowl in Boston. It was a community swimming pool that you could ride in the off season, and that's the bowl I got my first backside ride in. And immediately Jake Phelps was like, you skate too much, you don't party enough. Just like, I was blacklisted from Thrasher before he even worked for Thrasher, because I didn't drink or smoke or party. So
There's a lot.
But Freddie Smith and the Loud Ones crew were like, that was the first pro skateboarders from like, and then later he started a skate park down in Providence, Rhode Island called the Skate Hut.
Mhm.
And the day I got my license when I was 16, I put all my friends in my car and we drove to the Skate Hut, and he was like the god.
I'd been to Rhode Island quite a lot, and apparently it's quite a corrupt
Oh yeah,
state, right? Rhode
Yeah,
Island.
the
mayor's like got fishy things
he's
going on, and
been reelected like 3 times, and he's convicted felon.
He's
But
very
now that's normal because our president's a convicted felon. So.
Yeah,
He's
I
very-
mean, that blows my mind every
he's
time I
very
think about it.
he's very mafia orientated. Rhode Island, right?
Yeah,
That's what I was told.
there's a lot of old money going around there.
I'm so disappointed in myself I didn't get that with Andy
Freddie
Macdonald.
Smith
but
the
I
third,
did.
dude.
But I did.
Yeah, but you
failed.
didn't even know you did. You were
No, I
saying
said
Freddie something. and
I
was
said
just
Freddie
like,
Screwfix.
Freddie Smith. And
These are-
then Jamal Williams
Yeah,
was the first street skater from Boston area. And then
There's a lot of good skaters
And
in
then you
Boston
got-
at the moment as
and
well.
then the next generation was like Charlie Wilkins and PJ Ladd. And
Don't get me started on PJ Lad, Mr Macdonald,
Okay.
because I can go for hours.
we can
on
just
PJ.
we just did the whole thing about Boston.
Yeah, Boston episode. Like, you know, like Brian Reed at the moment is like, he's in Boston and he skates for like DGK and New Balance. And I've been to spots where like I've looked at them and said to the guys I'm with, like, oh, someone should go down that. And they're like, no, Brian Reed went up it. Like, he just, you know, because I think the architecture is similar to here. It's very rough. There's a lot of rough spots in Boston. So the
Yep.
skaters are just very well adapted to what they've got.
Yep.
And the skaters there are sick. Like Dave,
If you get a chance, check out the new Water Brothers documentary about Sid Abruzzi and his skater, his skate shop in Newport, Rhode Island, called Water Brothers.
okay.
It's goes through all the New England history
Yeah.
pretty well, pretty cool.
It's just a
documentary.
lot of good
they just premiered
skaters.
it in Encinitas. It's on like the he's on tour with it right now.
Yeah.
before the whole Skateboard GB thing happened, you were over here for like the Radlands British Champs in the mid '90s and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
You won one of them. What year was that? '96.
I don't remember winning one of them.
I'm sure you did. Didn't you say that as well?
Got first place. I watched it on a 4-on-1, I think. First place at a Radlands vert competition in 1996. Apparently.
Sounds right. Yeah, all right. I believe you. I turned pro in 1994, so
It's
that
on
was my
videotape.
first. Yeah, it's on a 401. I
Yeah.
won.
Who did
Sick.
you turn pro for? What was the first brand?
First brand I turned pro for was a brand called Human Skateboards.
Yeah, remember it.
And it was myself and Gershon Mosley.
Gershon.
Yeah.
The dude that sweats the most.
Yeah.
I used to
Slam
remember at the Radlands comps when he'd slam, he'd just leave that big wet. It was insane, so much sweat. But I
Yep.
mean, like, man, Gershon was consistent, wasn't he?
He skated a mini ramp like a vert ramp. Like
Yeah.
he used to do like heel flip Indy 360s on a 5-foot mini ramp.
Yeah.
Just like
So I've probably mentioned it before, but we went to the '96, the Lausanne Grand Prix of skateboarding in Switzerland, and we were walking around.
I was there.
You
I
were
did
there.
well in the street contest.
Yeah.
Daz just sent me, he was like, he went there, he was in Lausanne or something, and there's like a plaque that has the results from that contest, and he sent me a
No
picture
way.
of the,
Oh yeah, because
the plaque.
Daz's brother lives out there, doesn't he? But we were just walking down the street, and Gershon was out in the street just skating, and there was this like pebble dash that you get on some buildings. I don't know if it's like tiny fragments of grit, like really harsh grip tape.
Yeah.
So the pavement was that completely unwaxed curb, unwaxed on top of this essentially grip tape, and he's tanking it down the street. He's doing switch pop shove it's like big, and then I know like half cab flips or something, and then doing like not popping into it, but nollie lip slides on this completely unwaxed, dry, not
Grip tape
will
ledge.
Never, would never slide, and just goes. Woo, and me and the crew were just like, how does that work? Like, it's just mind-boggling. But I mean, he is-
gifted
Gershon.
skateboarder.
So
He
Gershon,
probably
yeah.
waxed it by his sweat. Right.
Human Skateboards. Was that out of another distro? I can't remember. Was it just on its
Yeah,
own?
it was backed by a company called Thruster,
right.
and Thruster was like basically the first action sports like board sports brand. They did Thruster snowboards, Thruster wakeboards. They started in wakeboarding.
Right.
So like Scurfer was the first wakeboard company, and then when they went out of business, Thruster was like a wakeboard company. So they had a boat and stuff. We would go wakeboarding on Mission Bay in the mornings, and then they had a vert ramp in their warehouse downtown San Diego. And
I remember seeing, was that in Form 1 a few times? That vert
yeah,
ramp? I remember
yeah.
that popping
Yep,
up.
the human ramp.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of an underground brand, wasn't it, for a while? How long did it last for?
I left in 97.
Yeah.
And they were pretty much done
Mm-hmm.
soon thereafter, I think.
Where did you go to after Human?
Powell.
And you've been there
ever since.
Fucking hell, Powell's good at keeping people on the team, aren't they? I mean, how long has Cab been on there now?
Cab's the longest.
40
something years. Yeah, Cab's the longest. I'm second most senior on Powell, on the Powell brand, but for the Powell Skate One distribution. So I rode for Powell from 97 till like 2003. We did like an Andy Mac brand through Powell, and that became Positive Skateboards, and we did Positive Skateboards for a while, and they still do a Positive Andy Mac like complete for me. So technically, I still have a board with my name on it, and then the 40 board, guest board. But
what's it?
Skate One's kind of like the dream distro house. Well, it's not even a distro, is it? The manufacturer within skating. Like, all those bone Swiss bearings, Andy.
I know, right?
God.
That's what everybody wants, right?
When I had the opportunity to go up and Mike V wanted to put me on the team.
Yeah.
And he invited me up, and I got the tour of the warehouse.
I bet.
And the distribution, like the manufacturing facility at Powell, and it's in the original building that they used to own. In the heyday in the 1980s, they owned the whole building, and they had a skate park in there called the Skate Zone. And I watched them pour wheels. I watched them press boards, and I was just like, I want to ride like this. This was since I was a little kid. This is like the dream deal. At the time, I had an offer from Chris Miller to ride for Planet Earth.
Oh,
and it was a good one. And they both had offered me the same amount of money. And Chris Miller's like, I wear a yellow helmet because Chris Miller, like, has always been one of my
Sean
favorite
would
skaters.
drop his entire life for that offer. I'm just saying
so
that.
it was like really like a hard decision, like Chris Miller, blah blah. But once I went up, like I told Chris, like, hey, I'll give you an answer this week, and I'm gonna go meet with the Powell guys. And I went and had that tour, and like. At the end of the tour, like did this, it's like 40 minutes to take a walk through the whole warehouse and whatever. And George gives me the whole tour, and we walk back up, and he must have said something to somebody in the warehouse, because I was like, yeah, I grew up, animal chin. I've been searching for chin, blah, blah, blah. And I came back up to the office, and this was like the part where he's going to be like, okay, so are we doing this? And somebody comes walking up and goes, here you go, George, and passes him a Have You Seen Him Search for Animal Chin shirt that they had screened, like it was still warm from like they had just screened it, because George must have been like, hey, make Andy a chin shirt right now. And he was like, oh, here, I made you this. And I was just like, I'm riding for you, like on a handshake. That was it.
And it's been like that ever since.
It's been like that ever since.
Skate One, I mean, the stuff they put out, obviously, Bones Bearings is like the leader in the field with that stuff. Yep.
And then Bones Wheels.
Yeah, and it's
like
just
the SPF formula. Like when George, because I was a part of it when George was, he's got a chemistry background.
Yeah.
And so he's always tinkering and like just engineering and chemistry. And he made the SPF formula. I was like, okay, George, you're done. Like this is the wheel. You don't have to do anything else. Like you made the best wheel. But he's always tinkering, and then they came out with the X formula. X formula saved my life for the bowls and stuff. Like skate the TF, and it's pretty slippery all the time. But ride X formula, you're sweet. Like it's like.
What's the difference between X formula and the Dragon formula?
Dragon's a bit more grippy, I think. The Dragon's like more a little softer. Like it feels like you're riding a filmer board or whatever.
They do.
But you can still get on a ledge and slide.
They still work.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't really ride the Dragons. I ride the X formula when I'm riding bowls, and then I ride SPF on anything else. Then Swiss bearings.
I was going to say when you go to Skate One, do you just load up the car boot with?
I haven't in a long time.
Big stacks of ceramics. I need my year's supply of ceramics because I have to change them every time I go skating.
I was just gonna say so you need one. Like if you change your bearing, if you have Swiss bearings, like, and you take care of them, they'll last you years.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
I know it's the thing. Isn't it?
I've gotten my equipment down to the point where like, and then George again, like he came out with the flight deck technology.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no one will ever make a board, because people have been experimenting with that stuff for
It's been going
years,
on
and
for
slick
years,
bottoms and
yeah.
whatever. And I was like, no one will ever make a board that's better than 7 layers of hard rock maple, Canadian maple. Like that's just had been the standard for so long. And then the flight deck technology came out, and I was like, nah, I don't ever think I'll be able to ride a plywood board again. Just
Yeah.
like that's the only board I ride, and it's a little bit thicker. I mean, sorry, a little bit thinner.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
But never loses its pop. Like you can drive a truck over it and then still do a kickflip, like no problem. Like I it's to the point where like I ride a board like for 6-7 months before I'm doing like ding repair to it and stuff, because if I'm just riding the vert ramp, it doesn't really get dinged up that much, you know.
Do they
So-
flex out like
That's
standard?
the thing. They don't flex out like a normal plywood board. Eventually, just riding it, it'll lose its pop, right?
Yeah.
And flight decks don't lose their pop.
I've never tried one. I've always been intrigued by it. You know, when we have them here, and you can tell they're thinner.
Yeah.
You can see that. But everyone who has them
I want to try that Andy
Kinda-
Anderson one.
kind of swears by them.
Yeah.
There's got to be some proof.
People get them and then they just come in and that's all they buy.
Yeah,
Like
that's
people-
that's the deal. Is like they don't lose their pop.
Yeah.
So the reason why you would need to buy a new one is because they got razor tail or they get worn out around the edges, whatever. But they don't break and they don't lose their pop.
Have you
So,
seen them being made at Skate One?
Yeah, yeah.
So what's
That's
the
what they make
secret?
them
What's
all.
the- what's the
in
secret ingredient?
You can't say
Come
it.
on, Andy.
I can't tell you that.
Give
We
us.
can bleep it. We can bleep it out.
All I know is like.
Did you have to sign an NDA with George?
The Andy Anderson boards, they can't make them fast enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are hyped on that kid, and all his boards are all the flight deck stuff's still made here in the States, whereas everything else is made in China. Yeah, Mike V's back on the Powell program.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, Skate One. Fucking hell, that's good. That's a good bunch of brands to be in with, obviously, and George knows his shit.
Yep. I
mean,
mean, I don't
proof's in
think
the
I'll ever
pudding,
be
isn't
anywhere
it?
else. That's just like I'm
No, you might as
I'm a
well stay
lifer
there.
for sure.
Yeah. Hold on a second. We need to talk about sponsoring this episode of the Brain Train Show. Toby, take it away.
Today's sponsor is Slappy Trucks.
Slappy Trucks comes from the mind of Mike Sinclair and was created through the lockdown. He was messing around with his trucks and he thought, hold on, I might just have a way to make them a little bit better.
Slappy Trucks provide the best grind clearance and slappy angle to keep your kingpins from the dreaded snag on Smiths, Feebles, Hurricanes, Bennett and Barley grinds, and has been measured by Professor Paul Schmidt. Slappy Trucks have the quickest turn, the best grind clearance, less wheel bite, no braking time, and are 100% more fun. I'm currently riding the inverted Kingpin Hollow ones, and they're very nice, and I'm getting on great with them. They are sick.
Slappy Trucks also have an incredibly large team, and some of our favourites are Mike Fraser, Leonardo Finkus, Abe Bethel, the Cab Killer Ira, and Arissa True.
They're also sorting out Will Sayer, Ben Plum, Liddy Strachan, Twiggy, and Manny Haddon. Where can people find out about Slappy Trucks, Forde?
They can find them at Slappy Trucks on Instagram or www.slappytrucks.com, or simply head to Roller Snakes and just search Slappy Trucks and see how many we have in stock. Toby,
Back to the show.
back to the show right
Back
now.
to the show.
Back to the show.
Back to the
now.
show.
So it's completely backtrack. Usually our first questions are, what got you into skating or what was the early inspirations? But we kind of breezed over that because we just nerded out and went straight in. So what attracted you to skating?
Why-
And
we nerded out and went straight in. I think you went starting talking about Boston. Dude.
yeah, I will fucking
That's what
love
happened.
it. But what
happened was.
But what did you see and what year was it when you were like, okay, skateboarding's the thing for me? Like what kickstarted it?
There wasn't it was my first experience on a skateboard. It was the first time I stepped on a skateboard. I was 1985, Boston, Massachusetts, wintertime, shooting hoops down the basketball court, and this kid came rolling by on a 1980s style skateboard. So up until that point, the only skateboards I'd ever seen in my life were 1970s style, like Dogtown and Z-board, boards like this wide, like little 70s style with like clay wheels or steel wheels, and my brother actually got one for like I was probably 5 or something, and he got one. So he was like for his 8th birthday or something, he got one of those boards, and it actually had urethane wheels. The urethane wheels had just come out, but it had like unsealed bearings in it and stuff, and we dragged each other around on it like we were water skiing, like made a tow rope on our bikes and stuff, and that was the first actual skateboard I ever rode. But then one day, like we took the wheel off and the bearings went rolling down the
Yeah,
driveway,
yeah.
and that was the end of that board.
Yeah.
And
That's
then-
mental to think bearings were like that.
Yeah,
It doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
And then this kid in 1985 down the basketball court had like a proper plywood deck, you know, probably 10-inch wide board, urethane wheels, trucks that turned. And I asked him if I could try his board, and just like rolled across the basketball court, and was immediately like, this is like a magic carpet. Like this is the coolest experience, the sensation that I've ever had. And like skated like the rest of the time we're at the ball courts, he was trying to trade my basketball for his skateboard, and went home that night and started bugging my mom to get me a board for Christmas.
Is that whole what you've just explained? That's exactly what happened to me, and that's something that a lot of people mention. That kind of instant, this is it. This is my thing. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you don't realize, like, I didn't realize that would become my life forevermore. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, here it is, 40 years later, and I've like everything I have in my life is because of that skateboard in some way, shape, or form. It's funny for the Samsung promotion we're doing here, giving away skateboards.
Yeah.
They went and found that board. It was a Veriflex.
I saw
board.
the video.
Saw the video
yeah,
with
yeah.
your brother, and he says, I never cared because I already had one.
Yeah, that's a thing of a dispute. He just said that in that video because he was like, "Oh, I already had one," but I'm pretty sure I got that board, and then his friend was already a skater, and he got a board soon thereafter. But I'm pretty sure that it's refuted, but I'm pretty sure I got that skateboard first, and then my brother got a board soon thereafter. My brother was better than me straight away. He could ollie over a trash can, and we were like, "Holy shit, you ollied a trash can!" Like we were still learning how to ollie like this high.
Yeah.
Where did they get that board from? Did they source it, or did you?
They sourced it. Yeah, it was just like in somebody's, like it was on eBay, and it was in somebody's garage forever.
And you've got that now,
And
yeah.
I've got it now. Yeah,
Yeah, good.
it's a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really collect boards or whatever, but I took a couple runs on it. They didn't even use it in that little video, but I took a couple runs on it. It was like it must have been sitting in water or something. It's super waterlogged. It's
heavy.
flexed out. Yeah, like I tried to pump Tony's around. Like it dropped in and I barely made it across like the flat bottom. Of it.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah, that's rad. Veriflex was kind of a big deal back then, wasn't it? That was kind of the next
before
stage.
then, like I didn't start skating until '85. Veriflex was a legit company before that, like in the early '80s, in the 1970s and early '80s. Lance Mountain used to ride for Veriflex before he rode for Powell.
Yeah.
And then they kind of went the way of department stores, and that was my first board, as a department store board. And then I rode that for a year, and then I got my first real skateboard. It was a Lance Mountain.
Which graphic?
It was the Future Primitive Lance Mountain
I knew you were
graphic.
going to say that.
Yep.
It's really hard to. So you started '85. I started '88. My first proper video was public domain, and the Powell guys were still like the big thing back then. It's really hard to put into words how like unbelievably rad the Powell guys were back then. Everyone was like, it was either Powell or Santa Cruz, isn't it? There's a few maybe like GNS guys that you'd look up to, but that was kind of the thing. It was like,
Well, it was like looking back now, it's like it was really small. There weren't a lot of skateboarders, and there were even fewer pro skateboarders. So like if you were a pro skateboarder, like
it meant something.
Yeah, it meant something, and you had a graphic that stayed around for years, you know. So like your graphic was synonymous with like your brand, you know, like and so I mean to this day the Tony Hawk screaming skull graphic, you know, the Hawk skull graphic is like he's still got boards with it on it, you know, for 40 years. People are just like that
McGill with the snakes through the skull.
Yep.
The Ray Barbie
long
one.
before Harry Potter came up with that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Fuck Harry Potter.
The Dark Mark.
I just like that at that time, everyone's graphics were also identifiable by shape as well.
Yeah, there
like
was a lot of that.
I always gone about the Lee Ralph shape. Like I skated a Lee Ralph shape for a long time, not the OG concave with the super flat nose, the modern concave.
Yep.
I think that was lost for a while, wasn't it? Like pro shapes and pro graphics.
I think
you knew what you were getting when
Andy
you got...
Anderson's brought that back more so recently, hasn't he? With the whole
He had the
I think
level
tip
of
one, and then
details,
Well, I think like Welcome
he nerds out on it
Skateboard.
for sure. He's got his like signature grip tape now. Like,
yeah. Where to put your
this
feet.
is where to put your feet to get there, certain flips
We
and
sell
stuff.
a lot of that stuff here. People love that stuff, like especially people my age and above.
It's interesting.
It's
Yeah, I mean from my very first skateboard, like the reason I got that Veriflex twisted board is because of the shape. I like the fish tail shape.
Yeah.
And then my Lance Mountain board has the same. That Lance Mountain board has the same like fish tail shape. And I think I tried to get away from it. And I ordered a Hasoi board or something at one point, and I got back ordered because so many people wanted a hammerhead that I didn't get it. So I ended up getting like. I then went on to like Chris Miller boards after that, and then mini street models or whatever. I had Chris Miller and Chris Miller mini for street.
Boards back then were unreal. You know, like walking into a skate shop in the late 80s, early 90s, it was like, you know, it was like proper.
Yeah, I wonder if it was just because the age that we were, and I wonder if kids, like I'll meet a lot of kids tomorrow, and I wonder if they'll walk into the skate shop and be like, whoa.
Oh yeah, it'd be interesting to know, wouldn't it? Like, you know, do they get that similar kind of vibe of
that feeling?
The you know, like the colors in the 80s, you know, like the
but
neon.
It's just like the feeling of being around that in that scene.
Yeah,
you know, just like the first skate shop I remember distinctly, like the very first skate shop, Beacon Hill, Boston, Massachusetts.
Big up Boston, Massachusetts.
Beacon Hill skate shop. I went in and it was just like, whoa, look at all this stuff. Like this is like dreamland. You know, like all this cool, shiny new stuff, and you just like. They used to call Rodney Mullen the Mutt because he would go to the skate shop and look in the glass display cases and be like, just like
drooling
like
over
just
it,
looking at like, and it was like stickers and stuff. It was like he was just like, look at those wheels. Oh man, look at those stickers. Like look at this. It was just like the stuff, you know.
I think like kids today still do get that. Like I noticed the odd kid that come in the shop, like Brian, for example, like a board will come in a shape and straight away he goes to the wall and he's like glued to it. And I'm like, Brian, put that fucking board down. You're not going to buy it. Do not stand on it. But then he like grabs it and he's like, oh my God, look at those wheels. And even
he's a full skate nerd, isn't he?
Yeah, you can tell he's going to stick to it.
Like
he's definitely going to stick to it.
No, I think there's that. It's just the age.
It's different,
you know, like
I guess,
I hang out. I've been going to Woodward skate camp for this summer was my 33rd summer. And it's still like stickers. It's just like I'm just passing out stickers. To me, I get stacks of stickers or whatever. But kids are like,
but kids are still hyped on it.
Yeah, it's like currency. It's like skate stickers. Rad.
Yeah, absolutely. Your first pro board on human. Can you remember the size it was? Because I'm thinking, like, what year did you say it was? 94. So we
it was thin. It was under 8 inches.
7.5.
Yeah, probably 7 3/4 or something. Something really thin.
And what board size are you riding now?
8 1/4 since 97.
Okay, so
I've had the same board, same concave, same shape since 1997. When I got on Powell, Mike V had the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And I was riding his board while we were working out what shape and my graphic and stuff. And then Mike V left before my first pro board came out on Powell, and I was already riding that shape, and I was just like, put it on Mike's shape.
Yeah.
And so I've been riding that. And that was my shape for the whole time that I rode. That I had a pro board on Powell.
8 1/4.
Yeah,
all that time.
Yep. And then it's
Good
still
for
the same shape I ride. They just custom make me those boards. Just
even with like vert and bigger ramps, still that shape and size. You not have like a mega ramp board.
I do. Yes. For a mega ramp, I ride a bigger board. For street, I ride a smaller board. I have a slalom board. I have like all the different styles of skating. I have boards.
A board for that.
But for vert skating and for pool skating,
8 1/4.
It's 8 1/4, and the only difference is the trucks are more grind down and a looser truck on pool skating than on vert skating. I did the whole Olympic series with rails on my pool board, so I'd have consistent sliding.
Yeah.
Depending on what like we were skating all new stuff every time. And we had literally like 40 minutes to get used to it. So, but I just recently took the rails off my board again for the first time just to go skate pools.
So 8 1/4 is good for the nollie heel flip frontside airs. Yeah?
Apparently.
Seems to work every single fucking time. I've never seen any not make of that trick.
Well, that kind of leads on to, like Toby said the other day in one of the questions, you're known for being extremely consistent. Do you have like almost like a strict regime that you stick to? Like if you're going to try a trick or learn a trick, you do the basics leading up to that? Like how did you get so consistent with what you can do? So you can do a lot of stuff at the drop of a hat, you know?
I think it just comes from having done a lot of skateboarding. Like Mitchie Brusco recently was like, I think that if you did the math, you've spent more time on a vert ramp than any other skater.
Yeah.
If you know, like the years that I've been skating, and before I had kids, I would skate like 7-8 hours a day. Just like I would skate all day, every day. And like if I was just skating vert, I would skate a vert session in the morning, and then I'd go home and eat dinner, and we'd skate a vert session. Like when that human ramp was there, we would skate the YMCA vert ramp, and then we'd go home and have big pasta dinner, and we'd go skate the human ramp at night. It was like for years, like 20 years, it was not uncommon to have 2 or 3 sessions per day. Just skate all day.
I quite just thought of having one session a
I'm
week
just thinking
now.
like when I skate for an hour, it takes me 2 or 3 days to not feel completely stiff and.
But I guess that's that consistency of your body being used to it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I mean, and I've thought a lot about it as I got older, but it's just conditioning. Like I would go to skate camp in the summertime, and literally just my pads would be on for 8 hours. I would get like rashes, like heat rashes, just from wearing my pads all day. You know, I don't take my pads off and skate street, you know, like just because I'm tired of wearing my pads. But I would go from, like, there's so much stuff at Woodward to skate. I would go from the jump to the bowl to the vert ramp to the mini ramp and just be in my pads all day.
Yeah.
When you do the season at Woodward, how long are you there for?
I used to go for 14 weeks.
Right.
All summer long. I would just live at Woodward and then go off to the amateur contest. And then when I turned pro, I would come back as a visiting pro. Usually I go a week. And now when I have kids, I bring my kids for a week or 2, sometimes 2 weeks, because I have a kid that does gymnastics, and for a long time, Woodward was a gymnastics camp and a skateboard camp, so she would do gymnastics, and my other kids would go to skateboarding, and they had a social media, like a media camp too, so they do photography and videography. And when my son did that for a year, and it's just like, it's a summer camp first and foremost. There's all that stuff. There's go-karts, and there's, you know, dirt track and rock climbing wall and horseback riding and the pool and wakeboarding, and there's so much to do there, like s'mores around the campfire or whatever. There's a ropes course, there's paintball, there's like all this stuff. And then, there happens to be this utopia for skateboarding and BMX.
Yeah, sounds incredible.
Well. Can you imagine a British equivalent of Woodward? It would just be, it'd be like...
I would, but I feel like the British...
It'd be like shots at the pub.
I just feel like the British would tear it apart because the British can't respect the things we've got.
I know.
Have you seen, I'm sure he was a Woodward guy, I follow him, he's called Jimmy something, but he skates like spines, but he does like 15 tricks in one.
Oh, I know the guy you're talking about.
Jimmy Jammy.
Like
Jimmy Jam Sammy or
slightly
something?
bigger dude, and he'll go up and he'll do
some serious coping.
He'll go up and do like a rock. He'll do like a rock fakie, but then bounce it round to back disaster, Smith lock it, Willie lock, Smith lock. Like that guy is insane.
Willie lock.
I don't think he works there anymore now.
No, according to his Instagram, I think he left, but he was incredible. Was there ever any like stigma behind going to Woodward? Because I always hear people like, oh, he was a Woodward kid.
I'd never heard of a stigma around Woodward. I turned pro in '94. I still came back to go, but before, like when I was living there, I would be at camp for 2 weeks before camp started, like helping to build ramps and paint everything and getting ready for the summer, because it just sits dormant for the rest of the year. And then the teams would just come through on tour, you know?
Yeah.
And that was the place to be, because there was just like this, you know, it was Camp Hormone, like for kids, because there's gymnastics, like half of it is girls, and then half of it was just like, it's utopia for skateboarding. And I know, like, and then because you're immersed in it, literally like living it, breathing it, you'd get really good. If you know, like there was guys that were there all summer that just by the time they were done, they were pro skaters. Like Josh Kalis was.
I was about to say, I guess you'd been there, and you've seen. I was talking to us recently
about like all the skaters that turned pro, like having gone through as campers.
Yeah.
Jamie Foy was a Woodward kid.
I was going to say, I bet you've seen a lot of the kids that go there that are now still
absolutely.
pro or just turning pro now as well.
Yeah, I always talk about Jamie Foy, like the years leading up to him turning pro and then getting skater of the year and everything.
Oh, it was quick, wasn't it?
It was like real fast. Like I was like, you were just a camper. Like you were just winning my uphill tic tac race. You know? He won my uphill tic tac race, and then he won another free week at camp and came back and won my uphill tic tac race again.
Just on Jamie Foy, because the skater of the year is soon to be announced this year. Who do you think's got it?
Arisa True.
Yeah. Who do you think?
I think it's going to like.
She's not even in the running, but I was
think-
has there ever been a female skater of the year?
I don't think they have, and if there was, it should be Alyssa. 100%.
Did Alyssa win it?
I don't think.
No.
I think Foy's got it just for magazine.
Oh, Liz
covers.
Steamer was in the running. She was nominated one year. Yeah, I just saw the nominations this year, and I was like, are they ever going to nominate or vote for a girl?
I think Foy's got it this year just for like the covers, articles, photos, and video parts he's put out. He's got to have been one of the most productive skaters this year.
It's either him
and
or Tiago. It's him or Tiago.
It's
I reckon
tied
Foy's
between them.
probably got it just a little bit more. I mean, we'll know by the time this comes out, but that was just. I saw it yesterday. They've got the final 5. Was it 5, Ed?
I think it's the
I think
final
it was.
5. Yeah.
Foy, Tiago, Braden.
Braden Hoban,
Who else?
Elijah Bell, Deeds and Elijah Bell. I think they were the final 5.
I reckon Foy's got it.
Yeah.
Do you know who the first skater of the year was?
Danny Way, wasn't it?
Tony Hawk.
Big up the bird, man.
Fuck! Oh my god! Skate.
You're
knowledge
just
is-
blowing it on the
yeah.
skate trivia today. You're so getting
And-
down on himself. You
And
didn't know
what
Fred Smith
person
the
to
third.
blow it in front of. Twice with Andy Macdonald.
What pro skaters have had skater of the year twice?
Jeez. Has he?
Danny Way
Danny
Danny
Way
Way.
twice, Ty Sean Jones twice.
recently.
Did Koston get it twice?
I don't
think so.
know. Don't think so. Did Mike Carroll get it? I don't think
No,
Mike
Mike
Carroll.
Carroll's on it.
But anyway, there you go. Yeah, stop blowing. You're
Jamie
usually
Foy's about to. He'll
You're-
have been twice if he
Yeah,
gets
I
it this
think
year.
I think Foy's got it.
you're usually on it for the trivia.
I know we haven't
with-
really been playing the pro skate game.
I think you just it's because Mr Macdonald's here
Yeah.
from Boston, New England.
It's
I
it's
can-
poisoned me
I
with
can
peanuts.
smoke most people in skate trivia in this like 80s to early 90s, but once it get into the 90s, people are like, they know from what trans world video, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, yeah. No.
My favorite
Get it.
pro skater game was when it was my turn and the answer was myself. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And you couldn't get it.
when we no, I set,
Leading.
I set the answer.
Oh, you
and
said
I was
for-
just like yes, no, yes, no.
Nobody
They
could
didn't get it, but yeah. Where do you want? We got a couple there. Where do you want to go after?
Let's talk about Human Skateboards, then riding for Powell. What other sponsors? I mean, you were with Airwalk for a long time, weren't you?
I was with Airwalk for 26 years.
Fucking hell, you're good
Yeah.
with.
Well, it's loyalty, isn't it? It's a brand loyalty. And I mean,
If
Airwalk
it works, don't fix it.
And I
right?
mean, Airwalk was like
You've got Chris
the
Markovich
shit, you
up
know?
here who changes sponsors all the time. You've got Andy Mac down here who's like Andy Mac
Yeah.
and Steve Cab and there's
Powell
Markovich up
forever.
Maybe we need like
Airwalk. Yeah, I officially got on Airwalk in '92 when I moved to San Diego, and Tony Hawk was on at the time, and he was about to have his first shoe. I think probably '95 or something. He came out with his first. The first pro shoes on Airwalk.
They had a lot of good people
you
on
had-
Airwalk.
Were Jason Lee,
Jason
Lee's shoe.
and Tony Hawk.
Who was the first skater who was on planet Earth? Brian
Howard.
Brian Howard.
He had a pro shoe.
And
Rick Bliffberg had a
Jeff-
pro shoe. Jeff
came
Rowley
out.
had a first.
Jeff Rowley was coming out with a shoe. We
Shoe.
spoke about that.
Yep.
I think it'd be good if anyone listening
then-
could compile a pie chart of pro skateboarders who have changed sponsors to see like who's changed the least
the
and
most loyal?
who's changed the most.
I don't know. I got a pro shoe in '97. When I got on Powell, I got a pro Airwalk shoe, and I had a pro shoe from '97 until like 2016, like all the way through in one
Nice.
form or another. And I don't know why or how, because it went, it crashed. Like Airwalk was huge in late 1990s.
Yeah.
They were making snowboards, hard goods, like whatever, and then it just crashed and
It
they
came
went off
and
a
went,
cliff.
didn't it?
And they got bought, and they got bought again, and they got bought again, and each time they got bought, they would buy my contract, and they would just like all these other people would go away, and eventually it was just me. It was like me, and there was a Anastasia. Ashley was a pro surfer, and she was on the team for a long, long time too. But even after she left, I was still, for whatever reason, like
Just
and,
kept
and there was
on.
there was time in there because they became like a licensing company, right? So I had a pro shoe that for a long time you couldn't get it in the States, but you could get it in Brazil and you can get it in Argentina,
That's what I was going to ask
Canada,
you about.
or whatever, because they were licensed. So they would buy the licensing,
Yeah.
and they were like, we want to make the Andy Mac shoe, and okay, here's the design for that and the colorways, and here's
And
what
then
we
they
can
make it over in that
and they make
country.
it, and they would make it in for that country, or like the Brazilian Andy Mac shoe was only in vulcanized, you know.
And you get
or-
the sweet royalties from all those
Yeah, I
territories,
mean,
right?
I made good money for many years from
Yeah.
Airwalk.
Do you think they kept?
And they got bought by Payless for Airwalk got bought by Payless. And
Right.
then when that deal went through in '93, I had four different shoes at every Payless store.
Yeah.
Like the season it came out, I remember somebody telling me like, "You'll sell more shoes the first quarter than Osiris will sell all year."
That's
Like
insane.
and that was like Osiris, like Dave Mayhew shoe, you know, like the
Yeah.
D3 or whatever. Like everyone was like D3, blah blah blah. I was like, I sold like 5 times as many shoes.
So
as
how
that.
many shoes did they sell of yours on Airwalk?
I have no idea.
Has he got them
Like were they
numbers?
giving you reports like this quarter you've sold X amount? Or...
I would just get checks.
Yeah.
I was like, I could go back and like, yeah, I could audit them for the numbers or whatever. But so many shoes that like most people got like $1 a pair or $2 a pair or whatever. I sold so many shoes that my royalty wasn't that big, but I was getting way more money. You know, like I would get like 50 cents a pair or something.
Yeah.
But I had 4 SKUs in 3,000 stores.
Yeah.
That was Payless had
Fucking
3,000
hell.
doors.
That's
Yeah,
insane, isn't it?
It was.
Did you get any grief from that kind of
Numbers.
deal?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people were just like, sell out this, blah,
Well, every
blah.
time it was sold to someone else, you'd get shit because you still had a shoe. on
No,
Airwalk.
I got shit for the corporate sellout. Like I was the first skater to have a drink sponsor.
So SoBe.
I
SoBe?
wrote- yeah.
SoBe? How do you
SoBe.
SoBe.
Yeah, stands for South Beach. South Beach. Easy for me to say. South Beach Beverage Company. They made juice and tea, and I drank it anyways. And then
Yeah.
their offices were down the street from where my manager lived in Connecticut, and we just started harping on them like, hey, you guys got to get into action sports, and they had like a mountain bike team, but they were like, and we just convinced them after 2 years of trying, like, this is the space you need to be in.
Yeah.
And I showed up at the first contest with a SoBe logo on my helmet, and people were like, you sell out, blah, blah. What does that have to do with skateboarding? I'm like, I skate, I get thirsty, I drink iced tea. Like, what's
Yeah,
the big
yeah,
deal?
right, yeah, I know.
But
Don't
it was
worry, I was
before
just-
it was before energy drinks, like the
Yeah,
Red
'cause
Bull. Red Bull
everyone's
wasn't
on
even
them now.
allowed in the States at that time. So I was the first skater. So like I got all kinds of hell for it.
I'm sure all that shit you were getting I'm sure you just went and cried in your nice Lamborghini that you'd bought off the endorsement. But do you think Airwalk kept re-signing your contract? Because from like 96 to 2012, like 22 podium wins or something like that, I roughly read.
Yeah, there was.
Do you reckon it's because of your competition history and stuff? Then
partly because
because that's where your
I
branding
did,
is,
yeah,
right? It's on-
partly because I was known as a contest skater, and partly because like I was known to embrace that side of like
Yeah.
corporate. I could see like the future of skateboarding isn't just, we can't just ride for a truck company and expect to be paid as
To
pro
live.
skateboarders. Yeah,
Yeah.
like if you want to make a living skateboarding, we're gonna have to broaden our horizons here. And I wasn't afraid to do that. I
Because that
wasn't afraid
logo
to
on your
be the
helmet
first, like-
is being seen TVs all across
right.
the world.
And especially around that time, like from the X Games started in 1995 and all the way through like 2010, or like it was before the internet was huge. It was about getting your logo on television.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
And-
course.
And I was on the podium at most contests for 20 years in there. Like,
Yeah.
and my logo was on the helmet, or on my, I always had my board had the stickers on the front, so I could just hold it like this in the interviews.
Yeah,
and
if you're
you could see
talking
the
to
logo.
someone,
My
yeah.
job was to get your logo out there. I was good at that.
I think it's just you understood the transaction of being a pro skateboarder with those endorsements. I think a lot of people now don't.
They won't put stickers on their board
Yeah,
or
and-
wear a
and-
company t-shirt.
Yeah, and I don't understand that, but you obviously had it dialed in
Yeah,
from the get go.
and
Basically, you
companies
knew your
are
position.
companies from outside of skateboarding in particular don't know what to expect.
Mm.
And if they know enough to know that they don't know, then they could use me as much in the traditional sense of a sponsored athlete, as much as a consultant for their brand. Like I had an endorsement deal with Lego, Bionicle toys when they came out, and they won all these awards for like this being a cool toy and stuff. But I was as valuable to them to have like my Bionicle sticker on my board and helmet as I was as a consultant, because the guy, I mean, Lego is a kid brand, right? It's for kids. And the marketing guy,
I don't know,
had
it's changing a bit.
Yeah.
The marketing guy called me one day and was like, "Hey, I just got off the phone with Thrasher magazine. They gave me a deal. We're gonna do these ads." And I was like, "Whoa! Like, you don't want to buy Lego ads in Thrasher like that? There's like, it's not the kid magazine.
It's not going to hit the right
right
market.
Like there's this other magazine, Trans World. You know, this is where you want to be." He's like, "Oh, I'm not sure. They said they have bigger distribution," which was not true at the time. I was like, first of all, he lied about the distribution. And second, just do me a favor and go pick up a copy of Thrasher. He'd never seen it. And he called me a week later and he's like, "Thank you so much. I would have got fired," because he picked up the latest issue of Thrasher and there was a pentagram on the cover and there's cuss words throughout and whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, "I would have been fired if I had bought those ads, and you saved my job, and thank you so much." And I was like, "Yeah, like I'm an expert in my field. Like,
I know what I'm doing.
I know the marketing, where you guys should be and where you should be, where your demographic is, you know." So yeah, I was able to like build my career on marrying like the corporate world or the non-endemic world with the world of skateboarding,
and understanding that, you know, if you, like you say, broadening your horizons with sponsorship.
Yeah,
there's more money out there with those big corporate brands than there is within skateboarding. So if you want to maintain that lifestyle of being a pro skater, you kind of need that.
And I've been lucky enough to like be able to do it in a way that's still genuine for who I am and what I represent. Like I was the first skater to have a candy sponsor. Like I've always been.
What was it, Lion
freak.
Bar?
It was. I wish it was Lion Bar. I'm still working on getting a Lion Bar.
Come on, Lion Bar, let's get it sorted.
Who
I
does
rode for
Vines?
Red Vines Licorice.
Oh, Red
I
Vines.
got paid to eat licorice for 2 years. I had a contract with them, and it's probably good that I don't have a contract with them anymore. So I was up to like a pack a day. But
you're hearing the heavy addictions in this episode.
Yeah, for a long time, my lunch was like a Cliff Bar and a pack of Red Vines, just like on the way to the ramp.
What's aside from the Airwalk deal, what has been the most? I'm not asking for numbers for this. What's been the most lucrative corporate sponsor you've been involved in over the years?
Because you've been hooked up by from what I read, like Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon was a good deal. Yep,
Cliff Bars.
Yeah, movie tickets was it lasted a long time, but it was one of those. It was around the same time I was riding for Red Vines, and it was just like, I'm big into movies. I'm a movie geek, and Red Vines you eat at the movies, and it was just like, I get free movies for all my friends. And here, like, we would do like movie nights, so like me and Cab and McGill and stuff, and we'd do like, we went and saw Godzilla, and we went and got sushi first because it was Japanese, whatever. Like we'd have like themes or whatever, and then pass out movie tickets to everybody and pass out Red Vines to everybody, and let's go watch the movies. It was just like fun and easy to be able to like, fun to be able to hook up your friends and do, and
100%.
And social media was kind of just taking hold at that point. And so it was just easy to produce content for when it's stuff that you're into and you're doing anyways.
Yeah.
Probably my most lucrative deal, I mean, long-term was Airwalk for sure. I mean, they helped me buy a house and cars and whatever.
Yeah.
Because I rode for them for so long. Yeah, a couple of Lambos, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, I still drive a Honda Civic. So it's like,
that's where Bam got all his Lambos from. Andy sold them to him on cheap. That's the skateboarding's greatest secret.
I've always lived below my means. And the Honda Civic, if you're as old as I am, was like the pro skater car.
Pro skater's car,
yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah, like when I came up in the early 90s, like the Alien Workshop guys had a house in Pacific Beach, and I lived in Ocean Beach, and like the car you wanted was like the hatchback Civic. Like that was the dope car. It's like, probably Sony Electronics.
Okay.
Were like was my biggest contract ever. I rode for them for a couple of years, and it's just surreal working with huge companies like that because they're multinational companies. They have a headquarters in San Diego, Japanese company, and I remember I had a 2-year deal with them, and my contract was coming up, and it was time to renew if we were going to renew or whatever. And I went to this meeting and sat with one of the marketing people, the head of marketing, and she told me straight up, like, we don't have anything to do with skateboarding, and we don't want to have anything to do with action sports. And at the time she told me that, they were a title sponsor of the X Games, which cost $1 million to have your name on the marquee that rolls up with all the other ones. And just to have your name on the marquee, I knew that cost $1 million because X Games had 14 of those at the time. So there were 14 million in to have your name, but then they pay a marketing firm to activate that sponsorship to have like the tent in the village and whatever. That's probably another $500,000. Plus they have my contract. So I knew they were like, close to 2 million in just to have me and be involved in skateboarding. And it was like a blip on her radar, so low down that she didn't even know. She was like, we don't have anything to do with it. I'm like, I know for a fact you're spending $2 million this year. And she was like, yeah, no, I don't care. Because they're just so big.
Yeah.
So at the time, the other person on the team was Justin Timberlake. And I'm pretty sure he was getting paid more than me.
Did you two guys ever hang out? Make sweet
I did meet
music?
Justin Timberlake on the Huck Jam tour one year. We were playing the big concert hall. I forget what city we were in, but we were in the big arena, and he was in the arena across town. And he came over to say hi during practice.
Oh, amazing.
Me and JT, we go way back.
Big up Timberlake. Isn't he in prison for drunk driving at the minute? So?
I think he's been on a bit of a path of destruction, hasn't he? There's, but
Hope
either
you well,
way,
Justin.
Yeah, sort yourself out, mate. Fucking hell.
So Sony was a good one. Did you get a good hookup with electronics at home?
Yeah, I still have a big screen TV, and I mean it was
How
in
big?
the time
How many
when
inches are we talking?
I don't know. It was before that stuff really. It's this big. I don't watch television.
Yeah.
So
What's that? 56.
It was kind of before like Bluetooth and stuff like that. So I had an iPod.
Yeah.
They put a stereo system in my van, and you took your iPod and you plugged it in, like the face popped down, and you plugged in your iPod and put it into and it folded back up. So it hid the iPod in there, but then you could use your iPod straight from the whatever. And they had like a kind of a speaker system that was on par with like Sonos is nowadays.
Yeah.
But it was just like, it was the Sony version of it or whatever, but it was all just coming out. So it was like, kind of just missed the cool window of smart TVs and all that stuff. It was before that.
Was that before? Because you had a game out, right? MTV Sports, was it a skateboarding game?
That was before that.
Featuring Andy Mac, or was it how did that come about? Like, did they approach you?
That was PlayStation 1. That was like early days.
It was before.
So
97, 96.
That's when you know you've made it, isn't it? That's when you know you've made it, when you've got a video game.
Yeah,
right?
that's why I'm not in Tony's game. That's why I've never been in Tony's game.
That was a question I wanted to ask.
Tony was developing his game, and I was developing mine, and Tony's won, obviously. I did mine with MTV. It was like MTV Sports featuring Andy Macdonald.
Yeah.
And Rob Dyrdek and Little Stevie and like
Sal Barbier was in it.
Yeah.
Good,
anybody that wasn't in Tony's game was in mine.
Had a good lineup in that game.
We had a good lineup, super good soundtrack, but it didn't play as well. Like the engine that controlled your guys would like get stuck or whatever. And it just didn't play as well as Tony's engine. So.
When you were developing that game, was Tony like trying to find out what you were doing with your game?
No, I don't think he even knew.
He was like looking over,
emailing each other. Like, what's going on?
The difference really was that I wasn't into gaming. Like I didn't even have a television. The reason why I could play my game was because Tony gave me a TV for my birthday because he was tired of like me complaining that I couldn't watch skate videos because I didn't have a TV. And he gave me one of those TV VCR unit things so that I could watch skate videos. And it was on that TV that I could play my PlayStation game, and the people that developed the game had to send me a PlayStation because I didn't have one.
Yeah.
So they sent me my game versions, and then I could start to figure out how to play, but I didn't play it enough. So I didn't put the effort into, like, honestly, I was out skating. I just was
you were doing the real thing.
I was doing the real thing, and Tony was into game. He's always been a gamer, and so he would get his versions and play it, and like he was really involved in.
Yeah.
and I wasn't involved. I was involved in as much as like I did the thing where they put the the motion capture. They put the balls all over you and stuff. It was fun to do, and it was like, oh look, I'm a video game character, cool.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I didn't get it.
But then you
Do
went.
you still have any of those prototype versions that they would have sent you knocking around?
Oh, probably somewhere, like in a.
Oh
in a
well, if you
shoebox
find
or
them,
whatever.
send them over to us.
Would you still be able to play them? Like if you put them in a PlayStation, would they?
That would just be genuinely interested in
Yeah.
those pre-builds of the game.
Right. Oh yeah.
People are with all games.
Right.
So
Probably worth
Yeah.
something.
I still get like in autograph lines and stuff. People will bring that like this is the game.
Yeah.
And then years later I did a game with Atari, for a PC game for Atari called Backyard Skateboarding.
Yep.
That you'll appreciate this part. There was a secret level that
Is it Boston?
If you unlocked it, you could do the you could do the Boston accent.
Don't
and
you
everything.
fucking look! I'm already turned on enough. I don't need to be pushed over the edge. But how did that contract work then? Not allowing you to be in Hawks game because obviously you did a couple. He's done plenty of.
Oh, I
follow
could
ones,
have been years later. Tony could have invited me, but
Yeah.
he never invited me. So.
Or don't take him a gift back today.
Yeah, I'll spite. Yeah, out of spite.
We're gonna get Andy Mac to call out Tony Hawk. Did you last time you was here? He wanted a certain whiskey, and we looked it up, and it was hundreds. It was like £600 whiskey or something.
I got him the expensive whiskey.
You
did?
bought it.
Yeah, I went to Odin. I went up to Scotland and went to the Odin whiskey shop.
How much was
got
it?
him the £500 or something.
Because he messaged me, didn't he, saying, "Tell him to pick me up this
Yeah,
whiskey."
I got him the one he told me to pick him up.
And I was stood there.
The
I was-
18-year-old
when
one.
Birdman asks for something, you do what Birdman says.
No, but imagine this, right? So I'm stood next to Andy. I just met Andy in Scotland. I'm stood here on my phone, and then Hawk's texting me, "Tell Andy to get this." I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
That's so funny. Yesterday when you messaged Arto that pillowcase.
Oh, so I got sent a 2008 Alien Workshop Arto Saari pillowcase, and I put it on Instagram, and I said, "Arto, what year was this from?" And he said 2008, and I put that on my Instagram story, didn't I? But what I didn't put on it is I can't wait to sleep on it and dream of you. And you know what he did? He followed me after that.
Yeah.
Aw.
I mean, Arto, Andy Mac don't follow me yet. But Arto, Saari, and Tony Hawk do.
Please don't follow him.
Hey, I haven't gotten a text that says you're going to dream about me.
I'm dreaming about you right now.
But I haven't
All right.
gotten the DM.
I'm going to
dude.
message you before you leave
All right,
and say,
message
"I've
me
been
with the
dreaming of
DM,
you. I've been
and I'll
dreaming
follow
of
you."
There we go.
I like the
But
text
I
you sent me
just-
last night. It was just word. So yeah, I like that. Nice
When-
and straight to the point.
When we was at the station picking Andy up, like Toby was getting his like plethora of calls coming through from different people, and then he went, "Who's calling me now?" And it was Andy Mac. And he was like, "Oh, Andy Mac's calling me, Andy Mac."
Because you didn't tell me what side of the station to come out
sorry,
on.
dude.
But it's just so
My bad.
surreal being like talking to Andy and Hawks being like, "Tell him to pick me this up," and I'm like, I kind of wanted to put back, "You can message him yourself," but then I was like, "You don't talk like that to the Birdman."
No, you
I guess I'm the pigeon.
yeah.
Pigeon. Right, we went off on
Sorry,
one
yeah,
there.
come on, let's get back on track.
Fucking hell.
Andy's got to get back to that vert session. We need to start getting through these.
It's going to be a
What
messy
do you want
one.
to? Should we?
I mean, we could talk.
We've done that
We
bit.
could talk about video parts like the Union Wheels videos, like what I noticed.
There was only one Union
No,
Wheels
there's
video.
two.
Yeah, a couple.
There was two, but the ones that I noticed in the two that I've watched of you in, you are perfectly second part in both those videos. So there's the intro first part, then there's, and on one of them,
my
you
favorite
bailed.
part is of I don't remember which Union video it was from, but I ollie this gap with street skating, and I ollie this gap, and then Chris Markovich sticks his head in and he's like, "Andy Mac, vert guy." That was the intro to the part.
I forgot what part it is, but it starts off with you on a vert ramp and you fly out the edge of the vert ramp.
Oh
You
yeah,
land
I
and the
put
board hits you
the
on
Cedar
head
Crest
as
Country
well.
Club slam. Yeah,
But yeah, no, I knew that there was a couple, but I mean, we don't need to go too much into filming video parts. But they had a stacked team at that point as well, with like Reynolds was on it, Josh Beagle,
Yeah,
with like the OG
Markovich.
Beagle.
yeah.
and
Mark
the wheels
Rich.
had the hexagonal part inside, didn't they?
Yeah, where you put the bearing.
I remember
bearing
buying
seat.
some, and they were, it's a long
Union
time
wheels.
ago. They were
Good.
expensive, and they flat spotted straight away because they were so small at the time. And at that point, we were still doing like slappy nose slides and going to switch crook and all that stuff.
I got on Union Wheels when I was in high school, and I used to wear a Union Wheels a beanie that just said Union on the front. And I was in high school in New England, and there's a little kind of Ivy League-esque college called Union College. And I was a senior in high school, and people would be like, "Oh, you're going to Union? You got early acceptance to Union?" And I was like, "No, it's a skateboard company. I'm going to California." I went to this high school where like it was in Newton, Massachusetts, and all these brainy people were like talking about, "I can't decide between early acceptance to Yale, Dartmouth, or Harvard, or MIT or whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to
California."
Yeah. I was driving my broken Datsun station wagon to college the day after not to college, to San Diego the day after I graduated high school. So
let's just focus on that for a second. So that was your plan. It was like finish high school,
leave Boston.
I'm
Big
out.
mistake. Well, obviously not. I just love Boston.
So like, did you have what was the game plan? Did you know where you were going to stay?
No, I didn't. I just knew that's where I wanted to go. I had saved like $500, and I knew like that's where it's good. That's where there was like 3 vert ramps in the country at the time.
Mm-hmm.
One was in Maine, like a 2.5 hour drive from where I lived. One was Tampa, Florida, the skate park of Tampa, and one was at the Encinitas YMCA skate park in San Diego. Yeah, and that's where I headed. I was just like, that's where the industry is. That's where the magazines are, and that's where it's sunny and 75 degrees every day, and I can skate all day, every day. And that was the plan.
Exactly
the
what
plan
you did.
was to, as it turned out, I had met my future wife the spring break before the summer I graduated and moved to California.
Mm-hmm.
She's from San Diego, and she introduced me. Her best friend that still lived in San Diego, and she's like, "Oh, you can go stay with my friend Amy."
Perfect.
Who happened to be dating Laban Phidias.
Oh yeah.
I know that name.
He came up in the pro skater game last session we had actually.
Yeah.
Nobody got him.
Yeah, to skins.
So I drove to California and I stayed on her couch.
Yeah.
Actually, her brother, they were in a 2-bedroom apartment. Her mom had an apartment. Her mom had a bedroom. She had a bedroom, and her brother was staying on the couch. So I stayed on the floor next to the couch.
Yeah. It's like a classic
week,
pro dream, isn't it?
And then a guy named John Hobbs was living in Ocean Beach, who's from Boston. I knew from Boston. He had an apartment in Ocean Beach with Rhino, who was also from Boston. Rhino of Independent Trucks, Thrasher Magazine.
Boston breeds a lot of
and I didn't know
people.
Rhino. I knew he was from Boston.
Yeah.
Because John Hobbs Bacon introduced me. But
he seems to do a lot.
I met him, and as Rhino tells it, like the day I met him was on that vert ramp. I had just come to California, and he came over and introduced himself. "Hey, I'm Rhino. I'm from Boston." And as he tells it, I was just like fully gave him the cold shoulder. I was just like, "Yeah, right on," and like kept skating. Like didn't pay him any mind, even though like we were from Boston. And then like a week later, I was like staying on his couch.
Yeah. It seems like
Rhino and I ended up living together for like 8 years.
You always see Rhino in like videos, don't you? He's like in the background shooting photos, driving. He seems to be active all the time. Like,
Yeah,
he seems to be
he's
out
a road
all
warrior.
the time, Rhino.
Preston Mygetter, P Stone. I lived with
Rest in
Rhino.
peace, P Stone.
Yeah, he's from New Jersey, but went to Boston College. So he did 4 years skating in the skate scene in Boston.
Yeah.
And I lived with both of those guys for years in Ocean Beach.
Because you're in quite a few of P Stone's videos, like is it like mixed nuts and stuff like that? Is that one of his videos? Yeah.
Yep.
Just going back to Laban Phidias, just before we move on for that. Do you ever see him juggling? Did you ever get involved with
I was in
juggling?
both his juggling videos.
Were you?
He's got juggling videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, caught clean, dude.
Professional juggler.
Well,
Laban's a really good juggler, and he's friends and like in those circles with guys that are really good jugglers. And then there was this crossover, this weird kind of crossover. You remember the name Marcus Wyndham?
Yeah.
Pro for Planet Earth.
Yeah.
Super good juggler. Could do like 7 balls, which
How
is
many
like,
can you do?
I can do 3 balls. Like I can do tricks and whatever. I can do clubs and
I can't do clubs. I can do
Diablos
balls.
and,
3 balls.
Toby's good with balls.
But Marcus Wyndham could do like 7, like gnarly,
That's
super
insane.
good juggler. Like, and Laban was in that circle and decided to do these videos around the time he was doing Invisible Skateboards, and he did videos called Caught Clean, and it would have like pro jugglers and pro skaters that juggled, and there would be like the pro jugglers would do like skate lines. They'd like juggling clubs, and they'd skate and then like slide down, run down a handrail, and then juggle, like throw one up and run and catch it, and then Laban was doing like juggling and then kickflip and keep juggling and whatever.
I need to watch this video.
It came up.
It's
We were
legit.
talking about. I don't know if you were in that game, but we were talking about it.
It's interesting.
Yeah, Invisible Skateboards was a good brand.
Mhm.
Anyway, sorry, right, I got distracted. What were we talking about next? What were we on just then?
We were talking about when you moved to San Diego,
Oh, yeah,
like
going out to
literally,
San Diego.
and that's like the classic becoming a pro skater kind of
Just
American dream that you read. Like,
I'm going. and
like
that's
got in a
that.
car, not much money, and just made it work.
Mm. Who was it who was on who said they? Oh, was it Don Brown when Don was on? He said didn't he get a one-way ticket?
He
Come out. Yeah,
he
when
went
he was-
went over there and realised that he didn't get a ticket back. So
Yeah.
he was like, I went over for 3 weeks and stayed for 40 years or something like that. Don of
Was it?
S
Yeah.
and
Wa-
American.
Wasn't he like 15 or 16? I just spat on you. Sorry.
That's
Yeah, he went at a very
that's how it
young
happens,
age.
dude. That's what I mean.
He came out like it's.
I wish that could happen now, though. I don't think you can. I don't think.
But
It's as
I think
easy
it's
as-
been happening for generations.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like Litska just had a documentary come out called One Way Ticket. Like
Yeah.
he grew up in the Midwest in Milwaukee and bought a one-way ticket to California, and it's kind of
Yeah, but Don Brown's like British to
From
America,
Brighton.
so
Right,
it's
yeah,
a
it's far. You gotta
completely
go over
different
the-
culture shock to just
Yeah.
kind of go over there and not come back for. Was it 30 years? For I can't
But
remember.
wasn't he saying that it was more so looking back how his mum
Never.
didn't have an issue with that with him
She
15
was just
or
like-
16-year-old just going
Yeah.
out to
Steve
California.
Douglas,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Douglas
Steve
came
Douglas,
Sam Beckett,
Bod.
out. Yeah,
When did Bod Boyle go over? He's been over there
Hugh
for a
Bob
long
Boyle.
time. Yeah.
Paul Cronchetti. He just
Yeah.
he just texted me this morning. Say hi to the motherland.
Yeah. Sam Beckett's mate that he grew up
where's
with.
Paul Luke from? Is he Cornwall or somewhere? Isn't he like down southwest?
I don't even know.
He
where
grew
Paul
up with
Luke's
Sam,
from,
didn't? Well, Sam grew up with him, didn't he? Took him under his
That's
wing.
right. So,
Yeah.
Sam. I
East Anglia.
have a rad picture of Sam and Paul Luke and myself at Woodward when
Yeah.
they came to Woodward from UK. They came to Woodward and like I was visiting pro, and
Can you send that
They're
to
like-
us so we can put it on the
Sam,
screen?
Sam's got it like on his phone. Yeah.
Yeah, is it his
Or his
background?
phone, like- yeah, it's his background.
He's got Paul
He's
Luke
actually
out
got
and
he's actually got a pillowcase of it.
yeah, dreaming on that.
Big up Sam Beckett. What's with skateboarding where it is now? You see, like mind-boggling stuff happening all the time. I'm talking more about vert at the minute. But where do you see like this progression going? Because the stuff that's happening now, you know, like with the little kids doing 900s back to back.
In the middle of a run.
Who's the guy who did the 900 varial as well? Can't remember his name.
Body varial.
Was it?
900 body varial.
He did kickflip body varial.
That's
9.
it.
He gets right to the last
Yeah.
minute and spins the last three, I think.
Yeah,
It
Like-
looks unreal.
geekery from Brazil.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you were to show that sort of even 10, 15 years ago, people would be like, this has got to be
Yeah.
CGI or something. But where do you see it going? Like what, aside from hitting more rotations,
Like, what
which-
more can you?
Right.
Yeah.
what's going to happen?
It's you can ask the same in street skateboarding.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so,
Like,
yeah.
like that guy 360. Like I can remember the first video watching somebody 360 kickflip down 8 or 10 steps was like, oh my god! And
Yeah.
the board like is bouncing off the ground before he lands on it. It's an old H Street video or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're like, how could it be any
How
more
could it
than
be
that?
done?
And now people see like that would be in like wouldn't even be an Instagram post if somebody did a tray flip down 10. You'd just be like, oh whatever. You'd catch it right away and like
It would definitely be an Instagram post for me if I
Yeah.
played it down.
yeah.
It'd be an Instagram post if I walked.
But
down
it was
10
like
stairs
the
without
ender
it.
in this video.
Yeah.
It's just like I've seen it. I've been watching it. I've been a part of it for 40 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have to put it in the context of that. Like you were like, oh well, if you had told somebody that Guy Curry would do a kickflip 900, kickflip body barrel 900,
Which is fucked. Just saying that.
20 years ago, but the context of that is that Tony did the first 900 in 1999. So more than 20 years ago. So it's just the evolution of skateboarding. Like I grew up and the most anybody had ever rotated was 720.
Yeah.
That was like the bar. Tony Hawk had done a 720. And so to be able to do 540s was just like, whoa, that was like the holy grail or whatever. And then I grew up and I learned 720s and I was like, whoa. And then Tony did the 9 and then the 1080 and like And that's just talking about rotation. That's like one little element of vert skating. You know?
Has the 1080 and the 1260 been done? Because that's more
Gee
like
did it
mega ramp, right? Like Hulk
right. The
obviously
1260's only been done once, and it's been done on a mega
because
ramp.
doing the 9 on a vert ramp, which is considerably smaller, is way more impressive
Yeah.
to me.
Tony did the first 9 on a small ramp.
Yeah,
on,
for the X Games
yeah,
99, right?
Yeah, so the ramps weren't as big as the ramp we ride now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't on a mega ramp by, you know. And the second one he did was actually on a mega ramp, on an MTV ramp that they built a high air ramp on. But yeah, it's just like the progression of like when Guy was born, 900s were already a thing. People could do that. So
Yeah.
as he progresses in skateboarding, that's the level for him.
That's the
He's like,
normal
one day
thing.
I'm going to do a body barrel 900, and he did. And then he did kickflip body barrel. And I
Which
remember
is
talking to him about
fucking
it, like, you
insane.
can already do kickflip body barrel 5s. That's the next step. Like, you got this.
But what's his
And
next
then-
step now? What's
Maybe more flips, maybe more spins. I've always been like a fan of off-axis rotations.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite tricks is that lean rodeo.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's kind of a backflip 180 more than it's a frontside 540, you know. So you know, and to this day, like the raddest vertical, gnarliest, scariest, raddest looking vertical skateboard trick, or one of anyways, is Sluggo doing a melon backflip to fakie in the Red Dragons video.
Yeah.
It's only been done that one time, and it's just like, because it's so dangerous and so scary. Like imagine riding up the top of a vert ramp 6 feet out and just grabbing behind your board and going, and just like
Doing a full
not-
backflip.
just straight backflip and landing backwards.
Yeah.
landing to fakie and not
Bolts.
flipping all the way out to
Yeah,
the fat.
exactly,
Like
yeah.
just like it's just to try it is the scariest thing. Like I would try a 900 before I would try that. You know,
Yeah.
because at least I could get around and figure out how to do it safely. And that is like, if you don't come off right, you're going to land, like, you can break your neck. You know, you could land on the deck on your head, you know, like you could land on your back on the flat. Like, it's just like,
Yeah. A lot of possibilities of
Yeah.
writing yourself off.
so yeah, I to answer your question about like the progression of skateboarding, you could argue like, oh, that's why skaters, there's not as many people that are doing it, and skating's so technical now that kids don't want to do it because they look on Instagram and like you have to be so good to be able to whatever. But again, like that's that style of skateboarding, that's that style of skateboarding
Yeah.
or whatever. And there's also like Andy Anderson's style of skateboarding.
Yeah.
And there's also like, you know, all the welcome guys and how they skate. And like, there's guys that just skate downhill and they super gnarly, like with the pucks on their hands and going through corners at 35 miles an hour backwards. And like, that's super rad too. Good for them,
Yeah.
you know? And I just feel like whatever style, whatever discipline, whatever you're into, there's something for everybody in skateboarding. And as far as the progression, it's just going to keep going. It's just going to like, it's not, kids are learning faster now and younger now than ever before because they have the facilities to do so. You know, they have, you know, it's on vert skating, to just talk about that. Like I learned the first backflip over a jump box because at Woodward there was a foam pit that we could learn. Like I used to drag the mats down from the gym and put them on the vert ramp and try flips onto the deck of the vert ramp. And eventually that became like, hey, what if we built, you know, a ramp into the foam pit? And then next to that we built a foam with plastic on it. It's called a resi that you could land on the resi and get the practice. And then we brought that to the vert ramp, and it was the first time that you could, I mean, that's how I learned that lean rodeo thing, is onto a resi first. You could get repetitions in. That's how I learned 720s, because it's easier on your body to go and spin onto a resi, and you can get lots of reps in than just like trying it on a normal ramp. So with facilities like that and the ramps allowing for that kind of progression to be made, it's
And
no
also
wonder.
possibly people like little Reese Nelson, the guy, like having Colin McKay sort of mentoring her. That's obviously going to...
Yeah, she skates a lot like a young Colin,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You can tell that
So-
Colin's her coach.
Like having people who have been in the industry that long, and then they're now the mentors for those people. That's definitely going to help as well, that level of progression.
Yeah, it's just like skateboarding has this history now, and And yeah, absolutely. Like it's, I think, a lot more supportive now than it was like when I was growing up in the 80s, and the older guys were just like literally would spit at you and just like, beat it, punk, you know, like, like you're gonna have to pay your dues like everybody else. And now like little kids come to the skate park with their little department store boards and stuff, and you're like, hey, let's learn how to drop in, like, here, I'll spot you. Like, people, skaters are much more inclusive and
approachable.
Like than they ever have been. And the women's side of skateboarding, I think even more so, and just like it's the fastest growing demographic in our sport, has been for years. And that's awesome. You know? Because if you look at if you drew a chart of the tricks progression in women's skateboarding, it's like this. Like Arissa did the first female 900. She invented a trick the other day, a frontside cab, lean to tail revert, the Arisserator or whatever it's called.
That's a fucking good name.
Sorry, what was the name of that trick? What did she call it? Arissa? The Arisserator.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So one of my questions here,
which will make Sean happy as well. One of these questions.
Give me your top 5 most amusingly named vert tricks.
Weirdest vert trick names.
Right.
Sean, get near that microphone.
This is kind of for Sean as well, because Sean loves this era and all this kind of stuff.
Because vert tricks can have some super obscure names.
Yeah.
Because Sean will say to me,
I'm such a fan.
You know, when you do that Phillips 66 fake, it's actually a jumbo slide to backside.
I'm like, Sean, I have no fucking idea. I can't even visualize it, because Sean can do some of it. He can visualize it, but I can't. So let Sean get near that mic just
Andy,
in case.
Give us
good impersonation.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
What's your top 5?
Yeah. I'll start by saying, like, I'm a fan of that era of skateboarding. And I try to perpetuate the funky names in skateboarding. If I invent a trick, I don't just call it like the technical name of what it is. I give it a funky name and hope that it'll one day catch on.
What do you call
with the exception of backflip? I just called that a backflip. But
the nollie heel frontside head. What do you call it?
I say that, like, that's what it's called.
Have you not got a good
name?
You need to come up with a better name for that.
I invented a nollie frontside heel flip, and that's what it's called. But I did invent a nollie. It's a nollie 360 varial inward heel flip. So it's a nollie laser, but it was before laser flips were invented on street. So I called it a lottery flip.
That's a good one. So that's nollie
laser, nollie heel laser.
Grab and mute.
Yeah, I did it.
To fakie.
I did it backside to fakie and frontside.
Nice. Right, there's one. Any more?
Oh, that I wouldn't even put that as my favorite. I wouldn't make that.
What's one of your favorite obscure vert trick names?
I'm just saying that I love the obscure trick names, and I try to contribute as much as I can, because I love the idea that skateboarders have this language. Yeah. That, like, we already have this culture that people that's cool, and people try to appropriate, you know, through people, non-skateboarders wearing Thrasher shirts and blah blah. But if you're a poser, you're a poser. Like, if you're just trying to appropriate it, and I go, oh, dude, you see that stalefish revert, blah blah blah, and you look at me like you don't know what I'm talking about, then I know that you're not legit. You don't really know. You have to live it. You have to be in it, doing it to know what I'm talking about. If there's this language, and
Sean? Give us one of your
favorite obscure.
It doesn't have to be one that I can do.
No.
Jolly Mamba.
Jolly Mamba. Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
It's a Miller flip, but you do it like really stored up into like a switch backside invert, right? Jolly Mambas are pretty good. I can hear fine as well.
What did you say? It's a what?
Jolly Mamba.
No, what's the actual trick?
It's a Miller flip, but you do it like fully like a front side invert, and then you stall the front side invert and like twist into like a switch backside invert.
Into a switch egg.
Yes, basically.
Or a frontside invert into an egg.
Yeah.
It'd be a normal facing egg.
Yeah.
And then fakie.
What's a woolly mammoth?
Woolly mammoth. I was just going to say woolly mammoth.
Because there's two, right? There's woolly mammoth and there's the easy mammoth, right?
Easy mammoth is like a nose pick front side, and you come in off your hand like a front side invert.
So what's the one that Charlie Gush did in that video I filmed, where he does the boneless to front side nose pick with his hand down and pulls it in? Because I thought that was woolly.
No, a Jolly
mammoth.
Mamba's the fake
A
one.
woolly mammoth is frontside invert, and you land on your nose on the deck and pull in.
Yeah, like a nose block.
Right, a nose block. On the
Okay,
deck,
yeah.
frontside.
That's a fucking hard sounding
It's like
trick.
that's like a Neil Blender trick,
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
a lot of them are.
Yeah, a lot of the names of them came from Neil.
Yeah.
Even if or sometimes somebody would invent one and somebody else would name it. Like Tony was doing these one-footed lean details and complaining to Lester Kasai at the time, man, I invent these tricks and nobody does them, or nobody, like, the name doesn't catch on or whatever. And Lester was like, you gotta name it something like trendy, like
something crazy.
and the
Madonna.
like a Virgin album had just come out. Like, that one-footed lean detail you do, call it a Madonna.
Yeah.
So
That's why
why we have the Madonna.
That's why Hawk messaged me originally on Instagram, because one of my mates was on a very short, big steep kind of DIY vert one. He goes up, pushes it up and hand plants, like handstand with a board on his feet, and brings it back in. And Hawk messaged me.
Like a ho-ho plant?
Yeah, and Hawk messaged me saying me and Neil Blender learnt those in this such and such pool because the wall was so steep it just threw you up. And that's where the love affair with Hawk came from.
And now
I have a pillowcase for
over to Arto. Any others?
I like. I can hear fine. Mute backside boneless.
Mute backside boneless. It's called I Can Hear Fine.
Yeah.
See,
a fun one is a fun one is backside.
You have to know that the mute air was invented by
Weddle, who was
Chris Weddle, who
was
was
deaf.
was not deaf. He
No.
he was deaf, not mute. So it's called a Weddle air now, because
Okay.
somebody misnamed it a long time ago and called it a mute air. And Chris Weddle was like, it's not. I can hear,
I can hear fine.
right. I can speak. I'm getting all confused now.
he's not mute, but he is deaf.
Right. I thought it should be called a deaf air.
This is what I mean. There's generations of trick names where they've came down.
And then there's names that, like, depending regionally, like what in the UK, what's a bastard plant?
Oh no, that is
a bastard plant.
That
No, that's
is
legit.
because it's Sean
I
Goff,
know
isn't
that
it?
I know that
Sean Goff did bastard plant.
Yeah,
Is
so
it
it
frontside,
is
backside,
just
boneless. What's a bastard plant?
Isn't it a
Right,
backside
so I always-
boneless to
it's a-
fake
it's
it?
a-
back boneless to fakey. I always
Oh,
thought
okay.
a front side, backside boneless is an ice plant.
ice
right?
plant.
That's what I
Would you
call it.
call a backside beam plant an ice plant as well?
No, I'd call it a backside beam plant, but it used to be interchangeable. Yeah. Or I'd call it a beam plant fakie if you're going to fakie. So, but a backside boneless to fakie is a bastard plant.
That's a bastard plant.
Okay.
Sean Goff bastard plant.
Okay.
Like
You got this trivia? Who invented the crooked grind?
Oh, I don't know.
Mike
It was
Crook.
not Eric Koston.
Mike
It was
Crook.
Dan Paterka,
Oh, okay. I didn't expect
8th Street.
that.
8th Street.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well documented. Like, it's Dan Paterka.
Yeah.
But people don't know that. They just think, oh, it's a K grind, and it was called a crooked grind because of how it locked in. Your board was crooked, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he
But
did it.
Dan Paterka was the first one to do that.
And then the Smythe grind after Sam Smythe, the no
And
slide
the
to
barley
crook.
grind and the
barley grind.
Yeah,
Barley
Smith
grind's
grind.
I'm
always
trying to
gonna
think
be
of a
the
good.
best.
I'm trying to think of a good vert one.
There's so many out there, isn't there? The scrambled egg, Andy
Sean?
Scott's kickflip egg.
Scrambled egg. Yeah. Yep.
And then Sam, what did Sam do him to fakey? Kickflip egg. And
Scrambled
Yeah.
egg to fakey.
what's the one that Sam came up with? He told us on his.
Can't remember.
Wasn't it a kickflip?
Sam did kickflip and Rex.
That's it.
Kickflip
Yeah.
and Rex to fakie. Did he
To
give it a
fakie.
name?
He just said it was the kickflip and direct fakey.
Yeah,
So it
he's
should
not,
be the
he's not
the,
as
the
nerdy
Beckett.
about it. Should be, yeah.
Beckett thing.
Beckett
whatever.
plant.
But yeah, we knew that question was going to bring up some interesting trick. Or Toby did that. That's why he put it down. Interesting trick names.
One of
especially
the
on
favorites.
vert.
One of my favorites that I got to name, that I invented. I got to name. My first video part in a long time. What video part was it? Called Straight Up. It was like 2012, and I had just learned Caballero backside boneless revert, like a fakey 540, fake 540.
Yeah,
boneless
like a
revert on vert.
540 backside.
Yeah,
boneless
and I asked
fakey.
in the comments like who's got a good name for this, and Tina Turner is what we came
Nice.
up with. 'cause
Yeah,
you're
that's
turning,
good.
whatever,
That's a
it's
good one.
So is that essentially the
Tina
same?
Turner.
as what I do with that fakey
With
back bonus
another-
with back to fakey.
Yeah, like a fakey to fakey 5 with the back bonus in the middle.
yeah,
pretty
That's
much.
what it is. That's
Yeah.
what a Tina Turner is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Those tricks that keep rotating in the same direction with a plant or a stall in them, that always looks so good on skating. Within skating, it's just the best. Isn't it?
Think about the video game tricks that people are doing now that are just like, you'll never be able to flip in and flip out of a handrail, blah blah. Like that's standard. You can grind a handrail and do a kickflip, or do like that hasn't been done yet, but people do grind, jump, grind again on a handrail. Pretty soon someone's gonna grind, flip, jump,
yeah, it's
handrail.
the next level of progression, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like
It's going to be like
look
it'll
at
be 10 years.
just like the video games, where on a video game you get on the rail and you balance, and then you kickflip and you land back on the rail. Of course, people.
Tell
are
you
gonna
what
do
trick
that.
you can't do on a video game, and I've only seen Winkowski do them, the ho-ho plant kickflip. You know, at the end of one of his Santa Cruz parts, he goes up, there's a ho-ho plant, kickflips it, grabs it back in mute, pulls it into faking.
I was going to ask you, like, what's the most mundane, boring thing that you've done with Tony Hawk? Like,
That isn't skating.
that isn't skating, just you and the Birdman just hanging out. And I was thinking, that mundane time, like when you had that adverse reaction to the antibiotics and you were puking up out my car, and I was just driving you home while you were puking, like shit like that.
So,
is there anything that
I spent a lot of time with Tony on the road. Like,
Yeah.
he and I both rode for Airwalk for years, and there was a lot of downtime traveling and sitting in hotels, and we'd always share a hotel room in the 90s.
You have like giggle as you go and sleep next to each other in a hotel room. Like,
talking
So
about
it was-
trick names?
Yeah. But then, I mean, I've known Tony a long, long time, 30 years, So
Yeah.
there's lots of times where we would just sit and talk
just
like,
shoot the shit.
on a private jet, flying around on the Huck Jam tour.
Let's get private in there,
Yeah,
didn't
because it was like a whole different like where we would be sharing a hotel room on some ghetto, Airwalk tour, to the Huck
To,
Jam
like,
tour, which was like
5-star.
top, 5-star, everything. We've spent a lot of time together.
Well, that's one of my favorite stories with Toby is like, long story short, I had like surgery on like my head for, sounds well vague, for like a tumor that I had in my ear, and I got given these antibiotics, and when I had them it fucking skyrocketed me. It was insane. And I came to work one day and there was an event on. I had something to eat and took one of these antibiotics, and I was like, I don't feel well. So I was being sick non-stop, back to back in the toilet, and I went up to Toby and I was like, please, you've got to drive me home. I was fucked,
He
weren't
was-
I? Like
he was
I've never
puking all
I've
over the
never
place.
really bounced back with like skating, because it just did my balance, everything, like my center balance, everything just went. It's why I sound nasally as well. I sound like I'm borderline deaf because this ear's deaf. But Toby gave me a lift home. We got 2 minutes round the corner. I was like, stop the car, I'm going to be sick. And he was like, are you going to be sick? And I was like, no, I'm fine, near Chester Green. We got to like, we come off a roundabout, kind of a bit of a main road, and I'm like, I'm going to be sick all over myself. Toby's like, just be sick out the car. So Toby's driving and I'm out
Can I
the
have
car.
a caveat to this? That morning or the day before, I'd taken my car to get all cleaned and
Cleaned, yeah,
valeted.
yeah.
I was going to say that
It
at
was-
the
it
end.
was all, it
So
was
Toby's
dead
driving and I'm being sick out the car, and obviously it projectiles all
Yeah,
over the
just
car. And
all
I'm
the
looking,
outside of the car.
and I'm like looking at Toby with like
Down
sick
the
all
side.
on me, and I'm just imagining from Toby's view looking at me, and I'm going, I'm just really sorry. Like I was fucked at that point.
You
For-
wasn't well.
For
Like-
a year, it
There
was
was-
like it
there
was
was-
bad. And then I went home and passed out being sick and nearly fucking choked.
Do you
to
remember
death.
that
It was
photo that you sent me? And like the whole side of your face was just like,
swollen.
Yeah, I had that
swollen out,
cholesteatoma.
like-
Then I went back after the surgery because my face was swelling up, and they were like, "No, you look fine." And I was like, "Oh, I must be fine." So the next day, I got up and I was like, "I'm going to go see the new Batman. I've got 2 months off work and I can't walk, so I'm just going to like wobble myself to the cinema." I had a shower, and as soon as the hot water hit my head, like the scar ripped open, all this blood came out. And I went downstairs to my mum and I was like, "Am I bleeding?" Because it was like here, so it went all over, and it went all over my back. And she was like, "Fucking go to hospital." I ended up in hospital again because like they leave a little kind of thin pathway
and it
for
came
like the
off.
shit to come out. And I was in hospital again, and I was just like, Toby said that when I came out of
You
surgery,
guys know each other a long time, yeah?
Toby said that when Toby said
4
that
years or something.
Toby said that when I came out of surgery, I called you, didn't I? And I was
You
crying
You
down.
FaceTimed me.
I don't remember
was
it.
when
I was so high. It was
you were,
great.
you were like, yeah, I'm out. I feel great. And then you showed me the hospital food, and they'd given you fish and chips. And at that point, you were adamant you were a vegan.
Vegetarian.
And I was like,
Vegetarian.
is that fish? And he went, yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. And I was like, "Alright."
Yeah, no,
Anyway, let's get back on.
because I had all this shit cut out of my head.
Andy's got to go and skate vert.
Yeah, but
You
not
guys,
till.
don't make me late for my vert session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you've got 8 hours.
Since spending a bit more time over here, what is it you've learnt about the UK that maybe you didn't know or weren't aware of before?
Like any culture shocks or.
Yeah.
No,
Because
nothing.
we're a very strange bunch
yeah,
of humans.
no, it's
A lot of
more
people say the
just
compliments of being like, "You're right, you knobhead." Like, you
Yeah, no, because from being from Boston,
Yeah.
I get that kind of humor, like the British kind of harsh humor where you only vibe those you love type, like harshness. Like
That's why I'm so harsh.
like
to
I
you.
wouldn't take the time to be mean to him if I didn't love him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas on the West Coast in California, that's like it's very different. My wife would just be like, "Why would you say that to him?" I'm like, "Because I love him. He's my best buddy."
So you've definitely
my
been
mate,
sat on a
right?
plane with Hawk and just been like, you're such a fucking
Yeah,
wanker.
yeah, just like, yeah. Well, the colloquialisms are like it's different words. you
Yeah.
know, like that's the part that having spent more time here in the UK that I'm starting to like understand more. Like not necessarily. You called me something on the way
Slut.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, what did you call him?
I got the phone out and I went, "All right, you slut, come here."
No, you
Uh,
called him
slag.
You said,
Slag.
all right, you dirty
Yeah.
slags. Let's
Dirty
get a
slags.
photo."
Slags.
Yeah.
And you said you can't call Andy a slag, and I was like, you can call me whatever you want because I don't know what a slag is. You know, like.
And also going from
Because
town
it's
to
like-
town, how different the accents are from city
Yes,
to city, and
that's-
it's not even that
that's-
far apart.
But even just the British accent, like I don't know the British accent enough that I can tell you what part of Britain you're from. Like I'm
You're
still
sounding
learning
British
the-
more and more every time you
But
come here.
I start to like talk like if I hang out with Sam and Daz long enough, I'll start calling people mate and whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't do that. Like in San Diego, it's like dude, and like it's just different words.
Well,
Just
Ace
like-
Pelka said, didn't he? Like
Dude.
when we kept saying to Ace Pelka, like, "You're right, mate." He was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Why? What's the matter?"
Right. Yeah. The first time someone asked me if I was all right, I thought they were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm all right." But then I come to learn, like, no, that's just how you.
It's a term of
Yeah, right.
endearment,
Yeah, it's
really.
just
Like,
like how you going,
Yeah.
Like, but so I'm more used to that, and and when I'm here and when I'm around other Brits, I start to speak like them.
how was it being in Scotland at that event? Because there was some heavy
That-
Scottish accents.
That
in
was
event.
hard. That was like I was getting like 60%, maybe
Yeah,
I was on the
half
tough
of what
one, isn't
people
it?
were.
And I was on the mic
saying,
taking the
you know.
piss out of him, trying to be Scottish, like, "Oh my god!" And then it was like,
It was hard. I went up with Stu to the High on the Hideout, and we
Yeah.
were in Odin, and I went to order a coffee. went to order a tea. We went to a coffee shop. Before we went to get Tony's whiskey at the Odin whiskey shop.
"Big up Tony's whiskey."
And I tried to order a tea, and I just like this woman could not understand me, and she said in like her accent, like
Who are you?
what yeah, it's just what like I just wanted black tea with cream and sugar, English breakfast tea or whatever, and we were just looking at each other like we were both speaking English, but we couldn't. It was just like we couldn't. Yeah, like it's something like moo and coo, like you like how you say you want tea with milk
Yeah.
in Scotland, and
One
people
of-
kept saying like you tea's out, McDonald, like you're crazy, you're out of tea,
Yeah.
you know.
One of the things that was making me laugh on the Scottish event is there was a brief moment where, I don't know if you remember it, but like one of our mates called Ben Layden was there, like fucking
Big
from
up, Ben.
Livy, Scotland, proper deep accent. And like, I'm sure that I clocked him talking to you, and like Layden talks like he's quick, he's sporadic. And I remember just looking over and you were like, he's like, "You gotta get in the fucking hole
Just
there."
smile,
And then,
nod, yeah, just
and
like
then you've got to go to
they're
that wall
speaking
there.
a foreign language. Like
Yeah.
if they were speaking French to me, I'd be like, yeah. all right.
And he was so quick, and I remember just looking over and being like, "Poor bastard," because I can't understand him, and I'm not even that far.
Yeah.
Should we go?
What about the food?
Oh,
What about
yeah,
British
yeah.
food? Because Ace Pelka loved
Yeah,
pies, didn't he, or something like that? Like
there's like certain obviously like Lion Bars is my favorite food you
curry.
can get here.
If you
any like the best Indian food I've ever had besides being in Bombay and I spent some time in 2012 months in India, and it was like the best obviously vegetarian food you can get, and Yeah, and the second best Indian food you can get is here in the UK.
Yeah.
So I always make a point to get Indian food when I come over.
Oh, you have to.
And
Mushy
and
peas and
another
shit.
part I just get used to. Like people are like, do you eat like eggs and beans? I was like, yeah. This morning I woke up at the hotel and I had greasy eggs and baked beans.
Greasy eggs and baked
do,
beans.
which you don't do in the States. Like somebody gave you that in the States, you'd be like, why are these eggs all greasy? Like whatever. Like, and baked beans that goes with like hot dogs at a picnic in the afternoon, not with breakfast.
See, that's crazy. We'd never have baked beans and hot dogs. That's psycho, isn't it? A cup of beans and a cup of tea for your breakfast, lad. That's all the hard working man up here needs.
Right. What do you want to go on to next?
I think he's possibly the only person that skated in the White House.
Tony did as
No,
well, didn't
Tony
he?
did years
Tony
after
did
I
as
did.
well.
During the Clinton administration, I did it, and Tony didn't do it till Obama.
Right,
How
yeah.
did that come about?
Everybody was skating, and by the time Obama was like, everybody was skating in the White House.
They were letting everyone.
Because that was to do with like an anti-drug campaign, right? Or-
Yeah. There used to be a thing called like it's called the Partnership for a Drug-Free America,
Mhm.
and it was like government funded or whatever, a nonprofit, and they started doing public service announcements. And
Yeah.
there was a famous one where like there's like a frying pan and like this is drugs, and then they crack a couple eggs.
This
in
is
it,
your
and, like,
brain
This is your
on
brain on
drugs.
drugs. That was the famous Partnership for a Drug-Free America campaign.
Baker Skateboards did a graphic of
Right,
it. That's
and
what I
everybody
remember.
ripped it off and did spoofs on it and whatever. And then they wanted to do one with an athlete, and I was the first athlete they ever used, and it was
How did
successful enough that it culminated in a visit to the White House, invitation to the White House to kick off that part of the campaign, and then later like Serena Williams did one, and like all these famous athletes did one, but I was the first athlete.
How
And
did you
it
come
was
into
like
that? Did you
30-second
have like,
spot where like, like, hey, I'm Andy, I'm a skateboarder. Skateboarding's hard. You got to fall down a lot, and oh yeah, by the way, I don't do drugs. Like, this
did
is
you
my
have a
idea of
man-
getting high and doing a big Japan air on a vert ramp or whatever.
Did you have a manager at that time? Like, how did they find you, and how like? Because you would have done a
Yeah.
lot of television appearances and
Yeah,
campaigns and
I had a
stuff.
manager. Tony Hawk and I shared a manager. Like we were the first that I know that
So that was one of
had
your
an
questions,
actual
wasn't it?
manager in skateboarding.
yeah.
And then as Tony blew up with his video game and stuff, he went to William Morris and had like an agency working for him. And I stayed with that manager for years. But yeah, it must have been just like he called me up and like, hey, would you be interested in doing this thing?
What
And
year
I got
was
a
it?
hold of him. So 2000. Then I was at the White House
Mhm.
at the end of his the whole Monica Lewinsky thing was just coming out and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Did
Yeah,
you ask him about that?
but I I gave him a skateboard. I gave him my pro model, and
Yeah.
I have a photo of giving Clinton a skateboard.
I bet he went
You're gonna
straight
be
into
out of
another
office soon.
room.
It's really,
Yeah,
it's
set
really,
this up. I'll give you some skateboard lessons.
it's
Yeah.
really strange. Like going back to like the 80s, where skating was the most rebellious kind of anti-establishment thing, to then that full circle, how it's changed over the years to the point where
You're a
skateboard-
respectable athlete.
Yeah, and invited into the White
Yeah.
House. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a big deal
That
for.
I mean, that was kind of ahead of its time for
Yeah.
what it was, and the connection was the Partnership for Drug-Free America thing.
Mm.
So, and I happened to be one of the few skateboarders that I knew that didn't smoke weed. Or whatever,
Yeah.
like.
There wasn't many around there.
But flash forward 20 years, and like I'm an Olympian.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah, yeah.
Olympic skateboarders that are
Mhm.
getting invited to like that Team USA went to the White House, and Tom
Mm.
Schar's like skate mafia up in front of the White House. and
Yeah,
stuff. Super cool. I just like,
Skateboarding.
yeah.
yeah, it's the best, isn't it? It's fucking brilliant skateboarding. Let's end on this one. What's the weirdest thing you've ever experienced at a demo or a competition? Crazy fans, any kind of weird shit.
Have
Yeah,
any fans ever
nothing-
slept on one of your pro pillows?
I know, right? I don't have a pro pillowcase. Damn, I gotta get on that.
Damn,
Arto
that's-
is on
I
it.
tell you what, Powell are blowing it. Why haven't you got an Andy Macdonald bed set? Like
Bed set.
like a robe, slippers,
Lamp.
Yeah,
when Airwalk got bought by Payless,
yeah.
and I had like the Andy Mac shoe line that expanded in Payless to like I had Andy Mac backpacks, I had a clothing line, and then in Payless there was like a back to school kit, so you could get like school pencils and pens and like a bookcase and whatever.
Amazing.
Notebooks and stuff like that. They were all like with the Benihana logo on it and stuff. So there was a lot of that stuff, but we never got into like the bedding.
That would have been a good one.
I should have taken. I'm surprised that Arto is like on that.
I think that was that might have been a promo thing that Workshop did.
One of my friends in Boston, Massachusetts, big up.
Sake.
He sent me.
Do you know he's been to Boston?
He sent me a video of him looking through an Alien Workshop catalogue from fall 2008, and he sent it to me, and he's like, "There's the fucking pillowcase." So I uploaded it to my story and tagged Arto and put, "It goes deeper."
No.
So any crazy demo stories?
I mean, there's like just crazy fans were like, "Sign my boobs" and that kind of stuff. I remember we went to Tokyo. Oh no. Osaka.
That's
we were
when
in
you
Japan,
made it. When you're in Japan,
and it was the opening of the Yasutoko Brothers skate park.
Mm-hmm.
The Yasutoko Brothers are the biggest thing in inline skating.
Yeah, they dominated X Games for a long time.
Yeah, and they're still both doing it. I just did demos with them after the Olympics. For 3 weeks.
Are they still just both in fucking insane?
Double backflip craziness. Yeah, they're just.
I remember
super
watching them. Yeah.
But they had the opening of their first skate park, and for some reason these it was me and like a couple of the vert guys. Josh Casper was there.
What a legend!
With the Casperholics in full effect.
And he had
he was
we were getting ready for the demo, and he put on a wetsuit under his clothes. He put on a spring suit wetsuit. Like shorts, and then he put on his shorts, and then it came up. It was like a tank top or whatever, and then he put his t-shirt on over that. And I was just like, "What are you doing, dude?" He's like, "Oh, it's extra padding, dude. Like it's just like in case you fall, like so you don't get tore up." I was like, "Okay." And then during the demo, the demo was like a street course all up on scaffolding, and he just ollied off the scaffolding, just like a 12-foot gap onto this really rough ground, and he was like falling on his side, and I was like, "He's got a wetsuit on." But as part of that demo, there was these guys on motor scooters, like motorized, like lawnmower engines on their motor scooters, and like super like super loud like mosquito
like
things or whatever. Yeah, totally. Like and riding around and this guy was trying backflips on his scooter, and he fell and like broke his scooter, and the gas tank spilled gas all over the fucking, and we're trying to skate, and we're like, "Dude, this fucking get that out of here! Like, what are you guys doing here?" And Brian Patch, there was like the green room or whatever where we were at, that had a dry erase board, and he drew a picture of him, and he was like, "How did I get here?" Picture of him. He's like, "This is going to be the next extreme sport, like moto scooters or whatever."
Moto scooters.
Yeah, just doing a demo with moto scooters was pretty surreal.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Before we sign off, what's your advice to anyone thinking of getting into vert? I'm still gutted.
You're still thinking about getting into vert?
Oh,
He hates the fact that you didn't get into vert when you had
I'm
the chance.
so gutted. We had a vert ramp and
There's
it just didn't happen.
I mean, my advice would be it's never too late. It's like really, if you can ride a skateboard, and in fact, it's way easier on your body. Like think about the
this
skaters.
Is what Jesse was telling me about this.
Think about the
recently.
skaters who've had the longest careers.
Yeah.
Skaters that are still around, still doing it, whatever. Skaters like Tony Hawk, Steve Caballero. Like Cab was pro when Tony, like before Tony, like Cab's 60 years old, and he's skating a Combi Bowl contest next week in January. It's because he's always been a vert. I mean, Cab skated or street cab for 10 years in there or whatever.
Yeah.
But the skaters that have had the longest careers are vert skaters,
Yeah.
because it is
a big slide.
it's a big slide.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Like, and to learn it, like, yeah, you can go down super hard vert skating, and there are high risk tricks like big spins and whatever, over rotate, knock yourself out, whatever, like more so maybe than or arguably for street skating, but you won't rack your nuts on a handrail when you skate vert.
You might be
He's got a point.
You
He's
might
got a
be
point.
brain dead, but
Right,
your balls are still going to work.
Exactly.
Yeah. But your balls are still going to work. So that's it.
So yeah, my advice is it's never too late. And once you learn how to get out of whatever you're getting into safely, it's safer and you'll be able to do it longer.
You heard it here first. Vert skating is safe.
That's
Not
right.
when you're looking at the wind and everything else. Like,
Just vert skating safe. Just take a barometer with you.
yeah.
On that note,
I think we should probably bring back the guest signing as well. So I feel like Andy's got the lovable, likable voice and face to. If you can look at that camera and say, "My name's Andy Mac. You've been watching the Brain Drain Show. Thanks for listening." Because we've not done this for a while, but I feel like you're the
I'll
guest
bring it
to bring
back.
it back.
Hey, my name's Andy Macdonald. You've been watching the Brain Drain Show. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Round of applause in the studio audience, please, for Andy
thanks,
Mac.
Andy.
Right, let's go learn some vert.